Chapter 541. Chapter 541, Secrets in the Phone. Liang bro, it's fine. Didn't we already have a plan? Xiaofu could tell that Pin Liang was nervous. If Pinjan accepts you, Liang bro, then everything will be fine. If he doesn't accept it, we'll just let Meng Yao go. Meng Yao doesn't know that we set this up anyways, and we'll just say that the cave owner set us up together. She doesn't have any proof, and she'll even thank us for saving her. Who knows, maybe we'll be the hero that saves the damsel in distress, and Meng Yao will fall for us. Pin Liang nodded. This was also the main reason why he used the incense instead of force. Even if things didn't work out and Meng Yao asked him about it later, he could always push the blame away and say that he'd fainted from the incense as well, but they'd only captured the two of them, leaving him and Xiaofu at the foot of the mountain. Although this would arouse Meng Yao and Ping Zhan's suspicions, it was just a suspicion. They wouldn't be able to do anything to him without any proof. This was also one of the reasons why Pin Liang wasn't afraid. If Ping Zhan didn't agree to his relationship with Meng Yao, then he could just let Meng Yao go. He wouldn't be able to do anything to Meng Yao then. He believed that Ping Zhan wouldn't hold this matter against him. Pin Liang had Xiaofu hail a taxi after they got down the mountain, and the two made their way back to school quickly. As for Meng Yao, he'd have to wait until Uncle Fu came to pick up Meng Yao and Yushu after school. He'd only be able to meet up with Ping Zhan then. During the self-study session at night, Pin Liang and Xiaofu acted as if nothing had happened. It was as if Meng Yao and Yushu's disappearance had nothing to do with them. In fact, no one dared to ask about the whereabouts of the two young ladies. Since the two of them had left, the teacher had turned a blind eye to it. Pin Liang was bored and wanted to see if there were any private pictures in Meng Yao's phone. It would be best if there were naked pictures. That way, Pin Liang could look at the pictures and fantasize about it. Unfortunately, Meng Yao evidently didn't like selfies. There were only a couple of pictures of Yushu in the album, and nothing else worth imagining. Pin Liang pressed the power-off button, deciding to put the phone back into Meng Yao's backpack. He couldn't explain himself if he had it in his hands. As for Yushu's phone, Pin Liang didn't want to look at it. He didn't want to, nor did he dare. What if he saw something bad and Yushu found out? The girl wouldn't let him off the hook. Who knew if Zihua Bro and Master Bing would be able to mess with Yushu? But it didn't take long before Pin Liang's heart started itching again. He remembered that Yushu's photo was in Meng Yao's phone. Could Yushu have Meng Yao's photo in her phone? The two of them might even take photos of each other. With that in mind, Pin Liang pulled out Yushu's phone, turned it on, and opened the photo album. Quack? Pin Liang's eyes widened as the person in Yushu's photo album was none other than Lin Yi. This surprised Pin Liang. Why would Yushu have Lin Yi's photo in her phone? He flipped through it, and there were photos of Lin Yi in school and there were photos of Lin Yi roasting the shark. There were many more similar photos. Pin Liang was speechless. This girl couldn't have fallen for Lin Yi, could she? But thinking about Yushu's personality, it was possible. But there was an 80% chance that it was just a crush. He couldn't see any relationship between Lin Yi and Yushu normally. Pin Liang let out a sigh of relief. If he let Lin Yi and Yushu get together, he'd be in deep trouble. The more he looked, the more depressed he got. He turned off Yushu's phone and shook his head. He didn't expect this at all. Did Meng Yao know about Yushu's crush on Lin Yi? But it wasn't his business. Pin Liang didn't have the time to care about stuff like this, especially when it involved Lin Yi. He didn't want to care about it. What if he got himself into trouble again? When school was finally over, Pin Liang stuffed Meng Yao and Yushu's phones back into their bags and walked out of the school alone. He didn't bring Xiaofu with him this time. There was no need. It'd be troublesome if Xiaofu got involved. Falbert's Bentley had been parked at the alley in front of the school for the past 3 years. Pin Liang remembered it very clearly. He found Falbert's Bentley easily. Pin Liang took a deep breath to calm himself down before knocking on the window. "What's up?" Falbert knew Pin Liang, as well as that he was the nephew of the company's previous shareholder, Jean Gubon. He was also Meng Yao's admirer. "Falbert, take me to Uncle Chu," Pin Liang ordered Falbert with an unquestionable tone. With that, he opened the passenger door and got in the car. Oh? You want to see Mr. Chu? Falbert frowned. He didn't expect Pin Liang to be this impolite, getting in the car directly. Even if Jean Gubong was a shareholder of the company, he didn't have the right to do this, did he? Not to mention that Jean Gubong wasn't. Falbert's sharp senses told him that something was amiss. If Pin Liang wasn't out of his mind, then he had something to rely on. So Falbert didn't chase him away right away. He wanted to know more about Pin Liang first. That's right. This happened so suddenly. I have to talk to Uncle Chu face to face, Pin Liang said fearlessly. Oh, then we'll wait for Yao Yao. You come with us. Falbert didn't say anything else after seeing how confident Pin Liang was. As for what he wanted to do, that was Mr. Chu's business. Falbert didn't have the right to ask. No need to wait. Yao Yao is at my house, Pin Liang said proudly. She's my girlfriend from now on. The most important thing for you now is to bring me to Uncle Chu. I need to talk to him about me and Yao Yao. Falbert paused. He looked at Pin Liang in disbelief. He started to suspect that Meng Yao had become Pin Liang's girlfriend. This was impossible in Falbert's eyes. Falbert took out his phone and dialed Meng Yao's number. However, her phone was turned off. He dialed Yushu's number again. It was the same. Falbert put down his phone and said, Since you want to see Mr. Chu, then let's go. Chapter 542. Livin's son-in-law Falbert, naturally, didn't believe Pin Liang's words. From Falbert's point of view, Pin Liang was most likely making things up. His relationship with Meng Yao couldn't possibly be as he said. But Meng Yao's phone was switched off, and Yushu couldn't be contacted. Pin Liang was the key person, and he had to control him. And so, Falbert quietly started the car and said to Pin Liang, Mr. Chu is still in the company, but I need to make a call to confirm. No problem, go ahead. Pin Liang was sure that Falbert couldn't do anything to him, so he didn't care. So what if he notified Pingzhan in advance? He would see Pingzhan sooner or later anyway. Falbert nodded and dialed Pingzhan's number. Pingzhan's life had been smooth sailing for the past few days. Without Jean Gubong and Xia Guanghua, the company's second-largest shareholder, Lin Yi, had given Pingzhan full authority to make all the decisions. Whether it was the board of directors or the shareholders' meeting, everything had become Pingzhan's. No small shareholder dared to jump out and go against Pingzhan. After all, Jean Gubong and Xia Guanghua's fate was clear for all to see. No one wanted to be the next target. Pingzhan was in the middle of a shareholders' meeting, and no one dared to turn on their phones. Of course, Pingzhan himself was the only exception. No one dared to say anything. Pingzhan looked at the caller ID and picked up the phone. Li Fu, what's up? I'm in the middle of a shareholders' meeting. Mr. Chu, Mr. Zhong Pin Liang wants to see you. Falbert cut to the chase. Miss should be in his hands. What? Yao Yao is in Pin Liang's hands? Pingzhan was stunned. He didn't expect Pin Liang to be so daring as to kidnap Meng Yao. Pingzhan had gotten used to his authority recently, and now that someone dared to kidnap his daughter, he was enraged. Falbert wanted to explain, but Pin Liang grabbed the phone from him. Give me the phone, I'll talk to Uncle Chu. Falbert didn't insist and passed the phone to Pin Liang. In truth, Falbert didn't know what Pin Liang did to Meng Yao. Uncle Chu, I'm Zhong Pin Liang. Pin Liang accepted the phone politely, trying to make his tone as respectful as possible. As far as he was concerned, Pingzhan was going to be his father-in-law soon. Pin Liang, where's Yao Yao? Pingzhan wasn't in the mood for small talk. His tone was cold. Uncle Chu, Yao Yao has agreed to be my girlfriend. We just confirmed our relationship today. She is resting in my house now, Pin Liang said. I was thinking about discussing our engagement with Uncle Chu. Yao Yao agreed to be your girlfriend? Pingzhan frowned. Come to my company now. Pingzhan didn't express his suspicions. Some things couldn't be explained over the phone. He needed to see Pin Liang first. He still hadn't figured out what Pin Liang was trying to do. Okay, I'll be there now. Pin Liang saw that Peng Zhan didn't suspect him right away, instead asking him to talk to the company. He thought that Peng Zhan believed him, and was overjoyed. He hung up and ordered Li Fu. "Did you hear that? Uncle Chu wants you to bring me to the company." "Okay." Falbert didn't say anything else. He put away his phone and turned the car towards Peng Zhan Industries. Pin Liang was in a very good mood as he looked at Peng Zhan's skyscraper. He was about to become Peng Zhan's son-in-law, and Peng Zhan didn't have a son. Did this mean that the family business would be his from now on? With that in mind, Pin Liang started calculating in his heart. When he saw Peng Zhan later, he'd do whatever it took to convince him to accept him as his son-in-law. Peng Zhan was in the middle of a meeting when he heard that something had happened to his daughter. He ended the meeting quickly and returned to his office. In fact, Peng Zhan didn't really believe Pin Liang's words. His daughter would have fallen for Pin Liang a long time ago if she could. She wouldn't have waited until now. Pin Liang's claim that Meng Yao had agreed to be his girlfriend was complete bullshit. But Peng Zhan was puzzled. Why would Falbert be messing around with Pin Liang? There could only be one reason. His daughter was missing. Falbert must have gone to pick up his daughter from school. He must have waited for Pin Liang because he didn't get his daughter. With that in mind, Peng Zhan gave Meng Yao and Yushu a call, confirming his suspicions after hearing that their phones had been turned off. Peng Zhan was calmer than usual after the company's turmoil, and as anxious as he was, he didn't let it show on his face. He sat quietly in front of his desk, waiting for Pin Liang to show up. After about half an hour, Falbert brought Pin Liang to Peng Zhan's office. "Hello, Uncle Chu." Pin Liang bowed to Peng Zhan as if he was a son-in-law visiting his home. "Pin Liang, have a seat." Peng Zhan gestured for Pin Liang to sit. He then turned to Falbert. "Pour some tea." "How can I trouble Falbert? I'll do it myself." Pin Liang was overjoyed. Was Peng Zhan accepting him? Otherwise, what kind of status did Fu Bo have? How could he let him pour tea for him personally? Pin Liang knew about Falbert's identity through his uncle. He was a man of authority in the company. He might only be a driver, but he was Peng Zhan's confidant. Normal employees wouldn't dare let Falbert pour tea for them. Falbert only worked for Peng Zhan and Meng Yao. Now that Peng Zhan was letting Falbert pour tea for him, did that mean that he was accepted by Peng Zhan as his son-in-law? Pin Liang thought excitedly. He hadn't even said anything yet, and Peng Zhan believed him already? "You kidnapped my daughter?" Peng Zhan's cold voice rang out in his head. "What?" Pin Liang was just about to take the cup of tea from Uncle Fu when he jumped in fright, dropping the teacup in his hand onto the floor, shattering into pieces. "Uncle Chu! Don't say that. How could I possibly do something illegal like that?" Chapter 543. Two Possibilities. She's resting in my house. Didn't I tell you? Yao Yao and I are already in a relationship, Pin Liang said calmly. He knew that he couldn't lower his head. His plan would be ruined if he did. Relationship? What relationship? Peng Zhan asked. It's a boyfriend and girlfriend relationship. Pin Liang tried to calm himself down. Think about it, what relationship can there be? Then why is she in your house? Why didn't she come with you? Peng Zhan didn't believe Pin Liang. She's tired and fell asleep. You know, girls usually have trouble moving around when they do it for the first time, Pin Liang said embarrassedly. First of all, she was embarrassed. Second of all, I was worried that she wouldn't be able to move around, so I let her sleep at home and rest. Oh? Is that so? Peng Zhan frowned. He didn't believe that his daughter would have a relationship with another guy so casually. Although his daughter had grown up, this kind of thing wasn't something that could be done so casually. Even if Meng Yao and Lenny did it, Peng Zhan would still be suspicious, let alone Pin Liang, who Meng Yao didn't like. Unless his daughter was confused. Wait. Confused? Could it be that Pin Liang had done something? Peng Zhan was enraged at the thought. If this kid dared to do it, Peng Zhan would kill him even if he had to give up his family business. Pin Liang felt a little guilty when he saw the unfriendly look on Peng Zhan's face, but he didn't want to back down. Uncle Chu, don't worry, Yao Yao's fine. She's just a little tired and fell asleep. Then tell me, how did you two get together? What did my daughter promise you? The more Pingzhan looked at Pin Liang, the more he felt that something was wrong. He was someone who had been in the business world for many years. How could he not be observant? Not to mention a noob high school student like Pin Liang, even those old foxes in the business world wouldn't be able to tell if something was wrong under Pingzhan's observation. Hence, Pingzhan felt that Pin Liang wasn't telling the truth. Of course, there were two kinds of lies. Pingzhan wasn't sure which one it was. The good news was that his daughter was completely fine, and Pin Liang was just bluffing. The worst-case scenario was that half of what Pin Liang said was true. He really did do something to Meng Yao, but his methods weren't that glorious. Uncle Chu, you also know that I have been pursuing Yao Yao. Wasn't he going to graduate soon? I thought that if I didn't confess now, I wouldn't have another chance. Pin Liang had already thought of an excuse, so when Pingzhan asked, he went straight to the point. A couple of days ago, on the tree planting day, I prepared a show of my love for you guys that never sleeps. I used fireworks to form the words Yao Yao, I love you. That day, all the teachers and students were there, they could all bear witness. So, Yao Yao was touched, she accepted my confession and became my girlfriend. Really? Pingzhan was starting to believe Pin Liang's words a little more after hearing his confession. Of course, he believed that Pin Liang had really made this confession, not that his daughter had accepted it. Of course, Yao Yao was so touched. Pin Liang said proudly. As the saying goes, sincerity can move mountains. I've been pursuing Yao Yao for 3 years, even a girl would be touched. Oh, so you guys went to get a room today? Pingzhan nodded and asked faintly. Heh. It's not getting a room, it's going to my house. Pin Liang nodded embarrassedly. Uncle Chu, I'm sure you've been around this age as well. Since Yao Yao and I are in a relationship, everything else should be in order. But don't worry, I'll take responsibility. Oh. Pingzhan nodded. Just when Pin Liang thought that he had passed the test, he heard Pingzhan's sudden question. Yao Yao went to get a room with you, did you go too? Ah? This? Shoo. Pin Liang's forehead was covered in sweat. Yes, Meng Yao went to get a room with him, but what was Yushu doing? Clearly, Pingzhan had tried to contact Yushu, but he couldn't reach her. In his plan, Yushu wasn't included. He only wanted Meng Yao to follow him up the mountain and lock her up. Who would have thought that Meng Yao wouldn't tell Yushu to leave when he was talking to Meng Yao? Yushu, the curious girl, followed them up the mountain as well. Pin Liang had no choice but to imprison Yushu as well. Otherwise, what if Yushu went out and spread the news? At first, Pin Liang thought that it was just one more person. It wasn't a big deal, and it wouldn't affect his chances. But now that Pingzhan asked, he realized that he was wrong. He was too naive. Since Pingzhan couldn't find Meng Yao, naturally, the first person he thought of was Yushu. Since Yushu was missing as well, the lie he'd made earlier would fall apart on its own. He didn't need to bring Yushu with him to get a room with Meng Yao, and he couldn't bring someone else with him. Was he trying to kill 2 birds with 1 stone? Pin Liang thought about it, but he knew that it was impossible. Besides, he didn't have any feelings for Yushu, and he couldn't wait to avoid her. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone with her was suicide. What? Nothing to say? Did you not plan your lie well enough? Can't say anything now? Pingzhan humphed coldly. How dare he show such a small trick in front of him? He was thinking too much of the business world. All right, since you can see through it, that's even better. I won't waste my time making up lies. Pin Liang didn't care anymore, and decided to go all out. I've captured Yao Yao and Shu. But don't worry, I won't hurt Shu, I only like Meng Yao. What did you do to Yao Yao? Pingzhan stood up abruptly. He didn't expect Pin Liang to be this bold, kidnapping Meng Yao and Yushu. Pingzhan didn't know what Pin Liang did to his daughter. What? What else could it be? Pin Liang didn't have to be polite anymore since he had already fallen out with Pingzhan. He crossed his legs playfully. Boys and girls together, what do you think? Uncle Chu? Chapter 544. Chapter 544, Zhong Pinliang. I've already done it. What's there to be afraid of? Pinliang said calmly. Uncle Chu, since you already know, I'll be honest with you. You have to acknowledge me as your son-in-law, even if you don't want to acknowledge me as your son-in-law. I've already done what I should, and I didn't use any contraceptive measures. I'm planning to give birth to this child. It's fine if you don't want to acknowledge me as your grandfather. My family can afford it. My father is more than happy to have a grandson or granddaughter with him. How dare you come to my office? Aren't you afraid that I'll send you to the police station? Pingzhan couldn't tell if Pinliang was telling the truth or not, but he was absolutely furious. He hadn't been this furious even when Gubang and Guangbo were trying to take over Pingzhan Industries. He was sad and regretful at that time, but now, he wanted to strangle Pinliang to death. Haha, I don't think you would. Pinliang shook his head. Uncle Chu, you're considered a respectable person in Songshan, and Pingzhan Industries is one of the top 500 companies in the country. Uncle Chu's family matters have a lot of media attention. If you're not afraid of losing face, you should blow this matter up. Let's see who will benefit from it. At most, my crime is drugging and raping Meng Yao, who took the aphrodisiac drug. At most, I'll give in half. Let's not talk about whether we can find any evidence. Even if we can, I'll only be sentenced to a few years. Oh, I forgot to tell you, Uncle Chu. My father and Sihua Bro are working for Master Bing now. Master Bing won't let me go to jail, right? Pingzhan naturally knew the name, Master Bing. He also knew that the deal between Gubang and Sihua was for this, Master Bing. The so-called Master Bing was the illegitimate son of the heir of a noble house. That house was very influential in the province, and Master Bing was quite capable as well. This was also the main reason why Pingzhan didn't retaliate after knowing who the mastermind behind the scheme was. Pingzhan couldn't even arm wrestle with Sihua, let alone fight against Master Bing. Pingzhan didn't want to have anything to do with people like that. He was a proper businessman, and he wasn't Sihua's opponent. What surprised Pingzhan was that Pingliang's father, Zhong Fabai, was working for Master Bing. What did Master Bing see in Fabai? Pingzhan's expression changed, and Pinliang knew that Pingzhan was afraid. He was overjoyed. I knew you were afraid. Thus, he continued to add fuel to the fire. Uncle Chu, you have to think carefully. I'll go to jail for a few years at most, but the jail is full of Sihua Bro's people, and I'll be taken care of after I get in. I'm going to enjoy myself for a few years, and you're going to offend Sihua Bro. Most importantly, if you mess up Master Bing's plans, I don't have to tell you what the consequences will be. Whoever dares to hurt my daughter, I don't care who he is, I will make him pay the price. I'd rather give up this company. Pingzhan stared at Pinliang fiercely. He had his reservations, but he could do anything for his daughter. Why do you have to do this? I'm not a disgrace as a son-in-law. Since what's done is done, why don't we get engaged in a proper way? Pinliang said calmly. My dad isn't the boss of a nightclub anymore. Our family's background isn't any weaker than House Chu's. What do you think? What I said makes sense, right? You don't, Pingzhan said coldly. If you really do anything to Yao Yao, even with your background, I'll make you pay the price in blood. Don't think I'm joking. Why? Why do you have to do this? Pinliang didn't dare to look at Pingzhan's eyes, and he laughed dryly. You know, your daughter is already a broken flower. If this gets out of hand, it'll affect both your and Yao Yao's reputation. She doesn't have anything against me now, and if you understand the situation, I'll still respect you as my father-in-law. Otherwise, we'll continue to cause trouble. All right, I'd like to see who's going to protect you. Whether it's Master Bing or Sihua, they'll stand up for you, Pingzhan said slowly as he looked at Pinliang. Pinliang panicked. Why was this Pingzhan so stubborn? It was said that businessmen cared about profits the most. There were no eternal enemies, only profits. In this situation, he could only do what he said to achieve a win-win situation. Did Ping-Zhan really want to fight to the death? But he couldn't show it on the surface. Uncle Chu, are you really going to sue me? Let me think about this. You can go back first. Ping-Zhan didn't continue threatening Pin Liang, but waved his hand, indicating that he could leave. Pin Liang was confused by Ping-Zhan's attitude. What did Ping-Zhan mean? Did he approve of him, or not? Why did he want him to leave so suddenly? Pin Liang knew that since Ping-Zhan had asked him to leave, he couldn't stay any longer. That would only make Ping-Zhan suspicious. He guessed that Ping-Zhan couldn't make up his mind right now. After all, everything happened so suddenly. Although he proposed a win-win situation, Ping-Zhan still had to weigh the pros and cons carefully. Was he going to fight to the death or accept him as his son-in-law? It was good that there was a chance. Pin Liang sighed in relief after thinking it through. He said, "All right, Uncle Chu, think about it carefully. If you want to send me to prison, then there's nothing I can do." Ping-Zhan didn't say anything, and Pin Liang could only stand up bitterly. Ping-Zhan's attitude made it impossible for him to carry out the next step of his plan. His original plan was that if Ping-Zhan accepted him as his son-in-law, he'd go to the cave in Mount Shuangyan overnight and cook Meng Yao. If Ping-Zhan didn't agree, he'd release Meng Yao. Nothing would really happen to Meng Yao this way, and he believed that Ping-Zhan wouldn't hold him responsible for anything. After all, Meng Yao was fine. If Ping-Zhan continued to pester her, then he'd be an idiot. Master Bing and Sihua weren't people to be messed with. This was why Pin Liang wasn't afraid. He was hesitant before, but after knowing the relationship between Sihua and Master Bing, he became bolder. Chapter 545. Chapter 545, Falbert's True Strength. "Mr. Pin Liang, please." Falbert gestured for him to leave. Pin Liang nodded silently and left the office. He knew that Falbert wouldn't be able to send him back this time. He didn't want to embarrass himself, so he didn't mention it. "Follow him. Check on Yao Yao's situation," Ping-Zhan ordered Falbert after Pin Liang left the office. "Yes, Mr. Chu." Falbert nodded and left the office. He said to Pin Liang, "Mr. Pin Liang, let me send you back." Pin Liang was overjoyed. What did this mean? Did it mean that Ping-Zhan still wanted to reconcile? Pin Liang's mood brightened up at the thought of this. He was very confident that Ping-Zhan would agree to this in the end. "Then I'll have to trouble you, Falbert." Pin Liang was already acting like a live-in son-in-law. Falbert didn't say much. He went downstairs with Pin Liang and got in the car. "Where are you going, Mr. Pin Liang?" "I'm going home," Pin Liang thought. He couldn't let Falbert see through him. "Yao Yao is still waiting for me at home. I have to go back early. If she's hungry, I'll have to make her instant noodles." "Oh. Since Miss Chu is at your house and you haven't eaten yet, come with me to the restaurant," Falbert said. "I prepare food for Miss Chu every day." "All right, give it to me then." Pin Liang nodded. He was glad that he had dinner now. After getting dinner from the restaurant, Falbert sent Pin Liang to Pin Liang's villa. Falbert wanted to go up with Pin Liang, but Pin Liang stopped him. "Mr. Zhong, I'd like to see Miss Chu and ask if she needs anything. It's getting late, so I'm afraid I can't go back yet. I'll go buy some toiletries for her," Falbert explained faintly. "Oh, no need." Pin Liang wouldn't let Falbert go up. Wouldn't everything be exposed if he couldn't see Meng Yao? He quickly waved his hand and said, "Falbert, Yao Yao is definitely not wearing clothes at this moment. If you go up, it is not convenient." "Oh, then why don't you go in and let her put on her clothes?" Falbert suggested. It's not convenient for her. You should know that it's the first time for a girl. It's not convenient for her to wear clothes." Pin Liang had an idea. "Plus, I have toiletries in the guest room. I'll just get her a set." "If that's the case, then forget it. Go up yourself." Falbert passed the lunchbox to Pin Liang and went back into the car. Pin Liang took the lunchbox and quickly went upstairs to his room. He looked out the window and saw that Falbert's car had already left. He let out a sigh of relief. Finally, he left. I almost didn't manage to hide it from him. Thank God I was smart, or else I would have failed miserably. As long as he could endure these 2 days, Pingjan would have a plan and he would be able to see the light of day. Pin Liang opened the lunchbox in front of him and found that it was quite a sumptuous dinner. He couldn't help but eat quickly. In fact, Falbert's departure was just a facade. He didn't leave directly. He drove around and parked the car in a corner. He got out of the car and went to Pin Liang's villa, hiding behind a transformer box. He looked at Pin Liang's window on the 2nd floor. Pin Liang was still there. Falbert let out a sigh of relief. He was afraid that Pin Liang would slip away in a blink of an eye, but it seemed that Pin Liang didn't leave directly. He didn't know if it was because he was being cautious or something else. After reporting the situation to Pingjan, Falbert continued to stay here to keep an eye on Pin Liang. Pingjan arranged for Falbert to come here so that Falbert could figure out what was going on with Meng Yao and Yushu. Pingjan and Falbert didn't believe that Pin Liang would be so stupid as to leave Meng Yao and Yushu at home. That was suicide. What Pin Liang said before was just a lie. What Pingjan and Falbert couldn't be sure was whether Pin Liang did anything to Meng Yao or not. In this case, Falbert could only follow Pin Liang in secret and find Meng Yao's prison location. Only then could they investigate clearly. Pin Liang wasn't that stupid. Although he didn't see Falbert's car from the window on the 2nd floor, he didn't dare to go to the cave on Mount Shuangyan under these circumstances. Before Pingjan made a clear statement, it would be a waste of time for him to go. Plus, there was enough food and water in the cave. The 2 girls wouldn't starve to death. After dinner, Pin Liang watched a horror movie for a while and went to sleep. Fabai had been discussing the demolition with Master Bing and Sihua these past few days. He didn't have time to go home at all. How could he let go of this opportunity to build a relationship with his backer? Falbert saw that all the lights in Pin Liang's house were off, but he didn't act rashly. Instead, he waited for a while. About an hour later, when a normal person should be asleep, Falbert jumped into the villa's courtyard and climbed up to Pin Liang's window. He looked inside through the gap of the curtains. Pin Liang was sleeping alone on his single bed. There was no one else in the house. Falbert was even more sure of his guess. Meng Yao shouldn't be in Pin Liang's house. However, he didn't dare to be 100% sure. Falbert planned to search the villa first. It was never wrong to be careful. Other than Pingjan, no one knew that Falbert was a golden-class physical practitioner. In fact, even Pingjan didn't have a clear idea of how much Falbert's strength had recovered. Falbert's current strength had reached the peak of the late phase of the golden class. However, it was impossible for a physical practitioner to break through to the mystic class without a suitable opportunity. So, physical practitioners like Gong Gao, who were in the early phase of the mystic class, were very rare. Because Falbert only trained his physique, he used his body to achieve strong strength. The energy waves in his body weren't much different from a normal person. So, Lin Yi couldn't detect his true strength. Unless Falbert gathered his strength and attacked, Lin Yi wouldn't be able to detect it. However, when he was with Falbert, Falbert almost never attacked. Until now, Lin Yi still hadn't figured out the reason why Falbert's strength didn't exist. Chapter 546. Yao Yao's whereabouts, however, the secret room was filled with jewelry, cash, and property certificates. Falbert wasn't interested in these things. After confirming that Meng Yao wasn't in the villa, Falbert left the villa quickly. Falbert was sure that it was impossible to hide one person in the villa, let alone 2 people. Since Pin Liang's villa was huge, the furniture was arranged loosely. It was easy to see if anyone was hiding there. After leaving Pin Liang's villa, Falbert gave Pingjan a call. Pingjan couldn't sleep tonight as he waited for Falbert's news. When he received the call, he was relieved. He knew that Falbert's search results were out. Whether his daughter was in Pin Liang's villa or not, it was good news. "Hello, Li Fu, how is it?" Pingjan asked. "Miss Chu isn't in the villa. Pin Liang didn't do anything after he came home. He went to sleep after eating." Falbert summarized the current situation. "Oh? So Yao Yao is hidden somewhere else? Pingzhan breathed out in relief. It was very likely that Pin Liang hadn't succeeded yet. Young people were very obsessed with that kind of thing. Pingzhan didn't believe that Pin Liang wouldn't do it again after the first time. He could even sleep at home peacefully. As long as he did it, no matter what Pingzhan's attitude was, he wouldn't wait to do it again. Even if Pingzhan sent him to prison, he would do it after he had done it, right? If Pingzhan acknowledged him as his son-in-law, it would be normal for him to do it. How could he hold back? That must be it, Faubert said. Mr. Chu, I think Miss Chu is fine. Pin Liang hasn't succeeded yet. I think so too. Pingzhan smiled. Li Fu, I'll have to trouble you. Follow Pin Liang closely and pay attention to his movements. I understand, Mr. Chu. Don't worry. Faubert knew how important Pin Liang was. As long as he followed him, he would definitely be able to find Meng Yao. Faubert wasn't worried that Pin Liang would send someone else to look for Meng Yao. Some things could only be done by Pin Liang himself. He couldn't ask someone else to do it for him, could he? So if Pin Liang hadn't succeeded yet, then there was no need to worry. If he succeeded, then worrying was pointless. Right, Mr. Chu, do we need to inform Mr. Lin about this? Faubert asked. There's no need for that. Lily has his own things to do. I'd be happy to see him have his own career instead of just being a follower by Yao Yao's side. Pingzhan didn't know what Lenny was doing, but he knew that Lenny wouldn't be doing something useless. Plus, a man had to be strong. He couldn't live off a woman, could he? All right. Faubert was just reminding Pingzhan. He didn't say anything else since Pingzhan had already said so. Pin Liang slept through the night and went to school as usual the next day. Fabai had been busy with Master Bing's company for the past 2 days, so he didn't have time to send Pin Liang to school. Pin Liang took a taxi to school on his own. Faubert followed him from afar, confused. Why did Pin Liang come to school as if nothing had happened? Wasn't he worried about Meng Yao? In fact, Pin Liang was very worried, but he knew that worrying wouldn't help. Pingzhan's attitude hadn't been decided yet, and he couldn't move on to the next step. He could only drag it out for now. It wasn't convenient for Faubert to follow Pin Liang into the school himself, but Pingzhan was a shareholder of Songshan's first school. Faubert found a few random people and asked them to keep an eye on Pin Liang. Naturally, these people fought for the job. Of course, Wang Jifeng was one of them. He was a person who was good at currying favor. He was worried that he wouldn't have a chance to build a good relationship with the higher-ups when Faubert gave him a mission. He patted his chest and promised that he would keep an eye on Pin Liang's movements. Wang Jifeng didn't care about anything else this time. He grabbed a notebook and went to Class 5 to listen to the class. It was normal for the dean to check on work, but this was the first time he did it for an entire day. However, Wang Jifeng didn't care about what others thought. He sat in the last row of Class 5 and refused to leave. Coincidentally, he was sitting right next to Pin Liang, too. Pin Liang was frustrated. What the hell was going on? He didn't even have the chance to discuss a plan with Xiaofu. He hoped that the god of plague would leave as soon as possible, but he didn't show any signs of leaving after a whole morning. At noon, Pin Liang was about to go outside with Xiaofu to discuss a plan when Wang Jifeng called out to him with a dark face. Pin Liang, where are you two going? Are you going to smoke in the bathroom? Pin Liang looked like he was about to cry, but he didn't dare not answer. I'm going to eat lunch. Oh, then let's call this classmate. Xiaofu? Go buy it and eat it in the classroom. Let's go to the cafeteria. I'm hungry anyways, buy me some too. It's my treat. He took out 50 kuai and handed it to Xiaofu. Xiaofu didn't dare reject the dean's order. However, he couldn't understand why the academic affairs dean would treat them to a meal. Are you kidding me? Although it's just a bento box, this kind of treatment is unparalleled. Pin Liang couldn't do anything about it. He didn't suspect anything, though. Wang Jifeng didn't like him very much, especially after Gubang was no longer a shareholder. He'd always caused trouble for Pin Liang. Who knew what was up with Wang Jifeng today? Pin Liang really didn't want to piss him off. Uncle Fu didn't expect Wang Jifeng to be so responsible. He was practically Pin Liang's bodyguard, but it gave him some time to sneak back to Pin Liang's house in the morning. There was no one in the house, so Uncle Fu snuck back and did a thorough search. He didn't search Pin Liang's room last night, so he might as well do it today. However, he didn't find any useful clues in Pin Liang's room. At this point, Faubert was 100% sure that Meng Yao wasn't in Pin Liang's house. But if Meng Yao wasn't in Pin Liang's house, then where could she be? The problem was that Yushu was missing as well, and the two of them had disappeared at the same time. Where could Pin Liang put them? Faubert wiped away all traces he left in Pin Liang's house. A normal person wouldn't be able to detect Faubert's presence, but Faubert always had to be careful. It was a habit. Chapter 547. This is kind of awkward. The third auction was held as scheduled, and this was also the last auction organized by House Yu. In this auction, Lin Yi didn't have anything that he wanted to bid for. Originally, he didn't want to participate, but because the last auction item was a deluxe edition of the injury medicine provided by his company, Lin Yi had to participate. It was reasonable to say that the third auction was the main stage of the auction, and it was the time for the big families to make their moves. However, Lin Yi was not a person who attached himself to the arts, and he had no interest in the real top-grade jewelry and antiques. "Boss, is there nothing you like?" Fatty Lai asked worriedly when he saw that Lin Yi didn't give him any instructions and just put the catalog aside. "There's nothing worth me making a move." Lin Yi shook his head. "If you like something, just do it. I'm going to sleep for a while." Fatty Lai smiled bitterly. Lin Yi was probably the only one who slept in the third round of the auction, wasn't he? Xiao Xiao was still sitting beside Lin Yi. Even if Lin Yi wanted to kick her out, she wouldn't leave, so Lin Yi didn't bother to say anything. "Hey Lin Yi, do you think I'm the girl who knows the most of your secrets?" Xiao Xiao didn't want Lin Yi to sleep, so she pulled him over to talk. "What do you mean?" Lin Yi pretended not to understand. "Tang Yin doesn't know about your company, does she? They didn't know that you could cure illnesses, did they? Even your two young misses don't know you as well as I do, right?" Xiao Xiao couldn't help but feel a little smug, thinking that she was the one who understood Lin Yi the most. "Oh, maybe," Lin Yi said lightly, as if this matter had nothing to do with him. Xiao Xiao couldn't help but get a little annoyed at Lin Yi's nonchalant face. What kind of person was this? He didn't know how to flirt at all. If it were a guy, he'd probably be excited, wouldn't he? Was his tone not ambiguous enough? Xiao Xiao had never pursued a guy before, and she'd never been in a relationship before. All her knowledge came from the internet and books, so she didn't know what to do. All she could do was sulk. "If there's nothing else, I'll take a nap." Lin Yi looked at Xiao Xiao. "I'm a bit sleepy." "Then, I'm also a little sleepy. I'll sleep too." Xiao Xiao gritted her teeth and laid down on Lin Yi's shoulder. "Good night." Lin Yi frowned and wanted to turn his body sideways, but Xiao Xiao's head was like a magnet, moving wherever he moved. Lin Yi couldn't just lie on top of him, could he? "Stop fooling around," Lin Yi scolded. Fuh. Xiao Xiao pretended to be asleep, ignoring Lin Yi. Seeing how shameless Xiao Xiao was, Lin Yi got even angrier. "Weren't you messing with me? Then let's see who gets the worst of it." Lin Yi put his arm around Xiao Xiao's shoulder, his hand moving towards Xiao Xiao's chest. "Ah!" Xiao Xiao gasped, her face turning red. She didn't think that Lin Yi would be so bold as to touch her chest. Xiao Xiao wanted to jump up and kick Lin Yi until he died. But Xiao Xiao came to a realization she was seducing Lin Yi to get him to like her, so how could she do that to him? Now that he was touching her chest, shouldn't she be trying to resist? At that thought, Xiao Xiao started to fidget. Being touched by a guy was a bit of a disadvantage, but in order to get Lin Yi's heart, it was normal to make some sacrifices. If it were when she first met Lin Yi, she would definitely reject Lin Yi touching her, but now, she really did feel like she was trying to resist. Ever since Lin Yi saved her from the sea, and again at the hotel 2 days ago, Xiao Xiao's hatred for Linny had lessened. She didn't know how she felt about Linny now, but she just wanted Linny to like her even more. Xiao Xiao hadn't had this kind of mentality before, so she didn't think too much about it. She just thought that if he touched her now, he'd feel like he owed her, right? Maybe he'd start liking her after touching her, and he wouldn't be able to stop. Linny saw Xiao Xiao move a little, but let him put his hand on her chest, not resisting at all. He couldn't help but feel that it was strange. This Xiao Xiao wouldn't be willing to sacrifice her body for her plan, would she? If that was the case, then why did Linny have to be so polite? Linny wasn't a nice guy to begin with. He'd been avoiding Xiao Xiao because he didn't want her to keep coming up with stupid plans to screw him over. Now that Xiao Xiao was offering herself to him, there was no reason for Linny to reject her. Plus, this was Lin Yi's first time actually touching a girl's chest. He and Yushu had only had a short misunderstanding before, so how could he touch her like this? Seeing that Xiao Xiao wasn't rejecting him, Linny got bolder and put his hand all over. Yes, this felt good. Linny thought that it'd be great if Tang Yun let him touch her as well. But Linny felt that his thoughts were a little shameful. The person he was touching was Xiao Xiao, and he was thinking of Tang Yun. Xiao Xiao might have sacrificed her body for some reason, but she was still a girl, wasn't she? It didn't seem right for him to touch her like that, right? But Linny didn't want to let go, and so Linny pretended to be asleep as he attacked Xiao Xiao. Xiao Xiao was also pretending to be asleep, but her face was as red as blood, and her breathing was getting faster and faster. Finally, she couldn't take it anymore and hugged Linny tightly, pressing her forehead against his chest, moaning softly. No one knew what she was saying. Linny felt a little awkward as he realized that he'd gone too far. It was nice to touch, but he couldn't just touch it like that, could he? He touched Xiao Xiao out of impulse, and now he was regretting it. He quickly let go, but he didn't know if he should push her away or let her hug him. Luckily, after a while, Xiao Xiao let go of Linny and looked up at Linny shyly. Is it nice to touch? Linny thought that the old saying made sense. What did it mean to touch someone's hand was shorter? Wasn't he the perfect example? But Linny wasn't the type of person who wavered. He didn't want to lie when Xiao Xiao asked, so he nodded. Xiao Xiao couldn't help but smile after getting Lin Yi's confirmation. You've never touched Tang Yun before? Linny shook his head. Chapter 548. The same hardcover. Linny wanted to say that he touched Yushu before, but he thought that it was a misunderstanding, so he nodded. It's my first time being touched. Xiu Xiao's smile turned shy. Linny sighed. They weren't going to talk about taking responsibility, were they? This made Linny feel awkward. It's fine, I'm doing this voluntarily. Xiao Xiao gathered her courage, wanting to threaten him with this, but she couldn't bring herself to say it. The words just came out of her mouth, and they just turned into soft, silly words. Ah? Linny didn't expect Xiao Xiao to say that. He looked at her in disbelief. I'm really sleepy. I'm going to sleep for a while. With that, Xiao Xiao closed her eyes and laid on the back of the chair. This time, she didn't listen to Linny. Linny didn't understand Xiao Xiao's attitude. Was this still the Xiao Xiao he knew? What was she trying to do? This scene made Lin Yi's understanding of Xiao Xiao a little blurry. All of a sudden, her attitude changed. What was going on with Xiao Xiao? Seeing that Xiao Xiao didn't want to talk to him anymore, Linny closed his eyes helplessly. Linny found it very strange that Xiao Xiao would let go of this so easily. How could he be in the mood to sleep? The auction went on as planned, and many of the items were sold at very high prices. Miracle Dr. Kang's family didn't buy anything, but they were still very happy sitting there. Dr. Kang felt that he was going to become the head of a noble house soon. He would be like these people, with an extraordinary position in society. As long as he had the title of a noble house, his path would become wider. Whether it was buying materials or selling, he would break through his current bottleneck, ushering in a new era for House Kang. Today, it was obvious that the noble house's attitudes towards Miracle Dr. Kang were much warmer than before. This was the reason why Miracle Dr. Kong was so confident. Only House Yu's attitude was a little vague. Haitian nodded at Miracle Dr. Kong calmly, not saying a word. But Dr. Kong thought that House Yu was just trying to avoid arousing suspicion. House Yu was the organizer of the Noble House meeting. If they were too close to House Kong, how would people think of them? Sure enough, the third auction is filled with good stuff. Kong Guifeng looked at the people who won the auction enviously, taking all the rare treasures for themselves. Hee, next year, House Kong will return with a full load. This year is a year of development, and we need to use our funds in the right place. Dr. Kong was envious as well. But thinking about the bright future, he was full of confidence. Seeing that the last item was won by a noble house's disciple, Dr. Kong closed the auction catalog in his hands. He was about to leave when the auctioneer continued. This auction will be the same as yesterday. There will be an additional finale item. This item is provided by Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company, Injury Medicine, Special Edition. Injury Medicine, Special Edition? Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company is also making Special Edition Golden Creation? That's called Injury Medicine, not Golden Creation. But isn't the effect the same? Is there a difference? The audience was in an uproar. Everyone was paying close attention to Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. In the first auction, the 3-pill of life extension and toxin cleansing provided by Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company were sold at a sky-high price. So, the third auction item that was added at the last minute had everyone talking about it. But after hearing the name, most people thought that it was something similar to the golden creation that Dr. Kang's medical company provided yesterday. Dad, why did Guan Xiaoming come up with something similar to our golden creation? Does he have the formula for our golden creation as well? Kong Guifeng frowned when he heard the name of the injury medicine. They're calling it injury medicine, so it should be different from our golden creation. Besides, it's hard to say if it's effective or not. Dr. Kong wasn't that worried. His golden creation's formula was a secret, and no one would be able to analyze it. Even if they did, the ingredients were rare, and they couldn't be mass-produced. Most of the suppliers in the country were monopolized by House Kong. He must be copying us. Kong Guifeng scolded unhappily. How shameless. And he's still calling himself Miracle Dr. Guan? That's a pretty good imitation. Imitation is imitation, it won't achieve anything big. Miracle Dr. Kong shook his head and smiled carelessly. He chose the wrong time to come up with a special edition injury medicine for auction at a time like this. Yeah. Kong Guifeng nodded. Indeed, we've already auctioned the golden creation medicine yesterday. It's basically enough for the entire auction. Who else are they going to sell it to? What a finale! I think it'll be embarrassing if no one buys it later. Let's watch the show. Dr. Kong smiled. Looks like it was the right decision not to leave so early. We can still watch a good show now. Grandpa, why do I feel that Fatty Lai isn't that reckless? Xiaolong was confused. If they brought out the same thing, they'd probably think the same thing. Aren't they afraid of embarrassing themselves? Not that reckless? If he wasn't, why would he spend 20 million to buy a box yesterday? Dr. Kong didn't think much of it. Hasn't he heard of the story of buying the casket and returning the pearls? But he still bought it. This proves that this person's IQ is really low. He was forced to do it yesterday. He couldn't back down now, so of course he had to spend money to buy it. But I feel that Fatty Lai isn't that kind of idiot. Xiaolong shook his head and didn't say anything else since his grandpa didn't think much of it. The auctioneer was very satisfied with everyone's response. He wanted to personally introduce the effects of this hardcover injury medicine, but after thinking about it, it was better to let Lai Changyi personally introduce it. So when everyone was almost done discussing, the host said, I think everyone is very concerned about the effects of this hardcover injury medicine. Let us welcome the CEO of Miracle Dr. Guan Medicine Group, Mr. Lai Changyi, to the stage to introduce the effects of his company's new product, as well as the effects of this injury medicine. Chapter 549. Where did the formula come from? Fatty Lai was looking forward to this opportunity as well. Being able to promote the company was a good thing, so he stood up and walked to the auction stage. It was Fatty Lai's second time on the stage. Even the heads of noble houses didn't get this kind of treatment, but House Yu gave him this face. Of course, this face was for Guan Xueming. Only Guan Xueming would receive this kind of treatment. Ladies and gentlemen, good day. I believe everyone is curious about what our company's injury medicine and special edition injury medicine are. Fatty Lai said calmly. Now I'll answer everyone's questions. Of course, other than Miracle Dr. Kang's family, the other noble houses and wealthy businessmen were all very interested in it. Even if it was the same as Dr. Kang's golden creation, they would still be interested. After all, having Miracle Dr. Guan meant that they had another choice. They didn't need to beg Dr. Kang's family anymore. Luckily, we made the skin beautifying golden creation. Otherwise, there'd be changes to the noble house promotion. Miracle Dr. Kong was gritting his teeth in anger. How did they get the recipe? Miracle Dr. Kong gritted his teeth in anger. They probably made it up, Kong Gufeng said. Fake products won't stand the test of the market. If it's something useless, they wouldn't dare to take it out. Xiaolong saw it clearly. Grandpa's right, we're one step ahead of them. We made the skin beautifying golden creation, and we made it at the perfect time to be ahead of others. Fatty Lai, naturally, didn't know what the Kangs were talking about. If he did, he'd probably laugh his head off. This injury medicine is used to stop bleeding and nourish the muscles, allowing the wound to heal faster without leaving any scars. Fatty Lai's words caused an uproar. Wasn't this the same effect as Dr. Kang's golden creation? Dr. Kang's face was ashen. It was one thing to make a guess, but it was another to confirm it. His face wasn't looking good. Anyone can brag. The key is that it has to be effective. Kong Guifeng snorted coldly. Grandpa, does Kong Xiaobo's family have our recipe? Xiaolong suddenly thought of something else. Was the recipe leaked? I don't think so. You're suspecting that they have the formula as well? Dr. Kong understood what Xiaolong meant immediately. Yes, Kong Xiaobo has a good relationship with them. I'm afraid that the formula was leaked by Kong Xiaobo. Xiaolong frowned. Otherwise, why didn't they start the company earlier? Why did he set up the company after he met Kong Xiaobo, and why did he come up with the exact same medicine? Boss probably hasn't seen the recipe. Miracle Dr. Kong shook his head. He'd fallen out with his brother, but it was because of this recipe that they'd fallen out. He'd wanted to use this recipe to get rich, but his brother had insisted that he couldn't touch it or even look at it. That was why they'd fallen out. If his brother had seen the formula, then he wouldn't have had a falling out with him. The two of them could get rich together, and that would be a different story. No, but how can there be such a coincidence in this world? Xiaolong didn't believe it. I'll go back and ask my brother. Dr. Kong frowned. If the formula was really given by his brother, then there was nothing he could do. After all, he didn't have the formula alone. But if it wasn't given by his brother, then he had to investigate. Xiaolong didn't say anything else. He raised his head and looked at Fatty Lai. He didn't know what he was going to say. The normal version of the injury medicine will be available in a month, and there won't be any shortage. The retail price is 199 yuan. Fatty Lai slowly advertised his company's product. He believed that in the near future, the price and effects of his product would spread from the mouths of these people, and more people would know about it. From person to person, from 1 to 10, from 10 to 100. Soon, Miracle Dr. Guan's injury medicine would be known by everyone. Besides, his advantage over Dr. Kang's golden creation was that it was cheap and had a large supply. When people couldn't buy Dr. Kang's golden creation, they would settle for the second best, Miracle Dr. Guan's injury medicine. After using it once and realizing that its effects weren't inferior to Miracle Dr. Kang's golden creation, it was obvious whether or not they'd buy it again. There won't be any shortage. You're bluffing, aren't you? Kong Guifeng laughed coldly. Our house Kong has taken over all the raw material suppliers in the country. Where are they going to get the raw materials? Even with Guan Xuemin's reputation, they won't be able to get much. That's true. If we had enough raw materials, there wouldn't be a shortage. Who wouldn't want to earn money? Unless the raw materials were too expensive and couldn't cover the cost. But if that's the case, if they bought the raw materials at a high price and sold them for only 199 yuan, wouldn't they be losing even more money? Dr. Kong shook his head. He didn't understand. Even House Kong couldn't guarantee a national supply without any delay. How could Guan Xuemin do it? He's just bluffing. I don't think so. Zhaolong shook his head. First, they've already bragged about it. If they can't meet the demand, their reputation will be tarnished. This is fatal for a new company. If they can lie in one segment, then they can lie in other segments as well. If the media finds a weakness and attacks them, their reputation will be tarnished. Second, if they can't meet the demand, why would they advertise in this place? Wouldn't that be weird? Without enough production, there won't be any profit. Plus, the price is so cheap, it's hard to say if they can cover the cost. Wouldn't it be great if they had the opportunity to advertise their other products? Gui Feng heard Zhaolong's words and nodded. His son was right, but the more he thought about it, the more confused he became. Dr. Kong looked at Zhaolong, pleased. Zhaolong, you've thought this through. So, they really do have the goods? I'm guessing so. Zhaolong said. Either they've hoarded a large amount of raw materials at a high price, enough to last them for a while, or they're trying to lose money and expand their reputation, or they have other sources of raw materials. Yes, you're right. Dr. Kong nodded. Looks like the opponent is strong. We've underestimated him. Haha, don't worry. Zhaolong shook his head. Chapter 550. Guan Xuemin's bullying. It doesn't matter if they're buying at a high price or if they have other sources, the problem of cost is unavoidable. Zhaolong smiled. All the sources are monopolized by us, House Kong, but they're still able to buy raw materials. What does that mean? It means that they're selling at a high price, squeezed out from somewhere else. If that's the case, their costs won't be enough. Our cost for a bottle of Golden Creation is around 150 renminbi, and they're selling it at 199 renminbi. After deducting the cost, the channel fees, and the retailer's profit, what do they have left? It's just enough. And that's according to our cost. If it's according to their high cost, they'll be making a loss. Yeah. Their price is too low. Kong Gui Feng understood the crux of the problem. That's why we just need to wait and see. Zhaolong laughed coldly. I think the opponent is a very rich financial group, and with Guan Xuemin's support, they'll naturally want to become famous. But we've already taken over the market, and they can only do so by selling at a low price. If we want to take back the market, we have to lower our prices, and they'll definitely lower their prices again, forcing us to lower our prices. It'll be a vicious cycle. With them in the market, the price of raw materials will increase, and our costs will increase as well. This way, everyone will lose more and more money, and once our House King's cash flow is in trouble, we'll be done for. It's a very obvious way to compete in the market, but I have to say that it's very effective. Many people have fallen for it. Zhaolong's right. If we lower our prices for a temporary market share, we'll be falling for the opponent's trap. They'll continue to lower their prices and force us to our deaths. Since they're planning to lose money, they must be very powerful. All we have to do is sit back and watch. Dr. Kong agreed. We won't lower our prices and let them play. Let's see how long they can keep losing money. Son, your analysis is very thorough. I have to say, you're really mean. They're really unlucky to have a competitor like you. Kong Gui Feng was very impressed with his son. Dad, are you praising me or scolding me? You said I'm bad. Zhaolong said it like that, but he was actually quite pleased with himself. He had seen through the enemy's scheme, and he felt like he was the fisherman behind the scenes. Of course, under normal circumstances, Zhaolong's idea wasn't wrong at all. In fact, it was quite accurate. However, this matter was unusual. This time, the product we are auctioning is the special edition of the injury medicine. Naturally, it is different from the one you can buy on the market. Fatty Lie continued on the stage. This is the special edition of the injury medicine. Naturally, it has extraordinary effects. Not only does it have the basic effects of an injury medicine, but it also has the effect of beautifying the skin. The magic of our injury medicine is that it can heal wounds quickly without leaving any scars, and this deluxe edition can repair some old scars, completely removing these old scars. Of course, this is only the main effect. There are many other auxiliary effects, such as beautifying, improving skin tone, removing dull skin, shrinking pores, and so on. Fatty Lie's words plunged the crowd into an awkward silence and an instant uproar. This special edition injury medicine actually had the same effect as the skin-beautifying golden creation medicine that Dr. Khan had given him yesterday. What was going on in this world? How could something so coincidental happen? 2 days ago, 2 different pharmaceutical companies brought out the finale products of the auction, but they were shockingly similar. House Kang's face changed instantly. Miracle Dr. Kang's face darkened. He was now certain that his brother had taken a peek at the recipe and told it to Xuemin. Otherwise, why would Guan Xuemin have the formula for the skin-beautifying golden creation? But he didn't call it by that name. He called it the special edition injury medicine. They're obviously going against our House Kang. Greifeng's face was dark as well. No wonder they wanted that 1,000-year-old snow lotus yesterday. It turns out that they know how to use it as well. But they didn't get it, did they? Why are they still auctioning it? Aren't they afraid of running out of stock? If I'm not wrong, they've probably gotten their hands on a Millennium Snow Lotus before. Dr. Khan said. It's hard to find, but it's not impossible to find. Didn't we just find one? With Guan Xuemin's reputation, it's too easy for him to get his hands on rare ingredients. Grandpa, about us becoming a noble house. Xiaolong was most worried about becoming a noble house. I'm afraid that the situation has changed. Dr. Khan was worried as well, but he couldn't do anything about it. Who asked them to be so unlucky? Encountering something like this. No wonder House Yu was looking at us weirdly yesterday. They knew about it. They didn't even tell us about it beforehand. They're obviously trying to embarrass us. Hatred flashed across Xiaolong's eyes. If House Kang couldn't become a noble house, there would be more variables in the future. Guan Xuemin, you're too much. Kang Guifeng laughed coldly. Then let's see who's going to win. Fatty Lie left after the introduction. Next up was the auctioneer's job. In fact, there wasn't really a need for an auction. After what happened with House Khan yesterday, Fatty Lie suggested to Lin Yi to increase the number of bottles, and Fatty Lie reluctantly gave up 10 bottles that belonged to his family, making it 30 bottles in total. He also suggested to Lin Yi to increase the number of pre-authorizations by 50. This was also what he learned from House Kang. The goal was to attack House Kang. In any case, they had already become competitors. Fatty Lie wanted to spend some time to convince Lin Yi, but Lin Yi agreed immediately when he heard that it was to attack House Kang. Lin Yi was duty-bound to avenge his little brother, Kang Xiaobo. Lin Yi was especially impressed that Fatty Lie was willing to give up the portion that belonged to him. This made Lin Yi slowly accept Fatty Lie, and he was ready to make him his confidant. Chapter 551. You have to compensate me. House Yu didn't like House Kang's way of using the opportunity to blackmail them. They had no choice but to agree to become a noble house. But now, it wasn't necessary anymore. What you have, Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company has it too. What right do you have to become a noble house? On the other hand, if Guan Xuemin wanted to become a noble house, House Yu would probably cooperate with him. They might even become the 5th noble house. From this, one could see the importance of a miracle doctor. The auction quantity is 30 finished products and 50 pre-sale products. The price of the finished product is 2.99 million, and the pre-sale product is 2 million. First come, first served. The auctioneer introduced the rules of the auction. Everyone knew the rules of this auction. There was a red button on the table in front of them. When the auctioneer said start, everyone could press the button to start the auction. The first person to press the button would get the item. Of course, no one would offend anyone in this situation. One person could bid for more than one item. Usually, the people would press the button according to the size of the family and the status of the rich and famous people. Only when there were more people left would they start the fair auction. This shocking price made the two wealthy businessmen who had spent more than 10 million on the pre-sale items the day before instantly dumbfounded. They spent so much money on the pre-sale product, but the finished product was only 2.99 million. Of course, this was Fatty Lie's last-minute price increase. Those who didn't bid were all glad that they didn't rush to the end of the auction yesterday. Otherwise, they would have lost a lot. Dr. Kang's family was completely dumbfounded. They didn't expect Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company to take out 30 finished products and 50 pre-sale products at once. They were ashamed of themselves. Yesterday, they were acting all mysterious, making people think that it was a good thing. They only made 2 trial products, and they were even pre-sale products. Today, they were mass-producing it. Wasn't it obvious that they weren't as good as Miracle Dr. Guan's? This was so embarrassing. Fuck, didn't they not get the Millennium Snow Lotus? Why are there pre-sale products? Where did they get it from? Kang Guifeng was so angry that he wanted to stand up and curse. Wasn't this too much? He felt his face burning. Dr. Kang didn't say anything, but from his expression, it was obvious that he was in a very bad mood. Xiaolong, on the other hand, was frowning. After a while, he relaxed his brows and smiled. Grandpa, Dad, did you forget what I said? If they are willing to pay, then let them pay. We will just wait and see. As long as we do our job well, it's up to them what they want to do. If they have the ability, they can pay for a year and continue to pay for next year's auction. Dr. Kang and Kang Guifeng slapped their thighs. What a wake-up call! Indeed, Xiaolong was right. If they were willing to pay up, then so be it. It wasn't like he could interfere. Let's see who'll be the one laughing in the end. Thinking of this, the people of the Kang family were relieved. They looked at the people around them excitedly bidding for the photos. They thought to themselves, go ahead and bid more. There won't be this price next year. The auction had come to an end, and House Kang didn't feel too good about it. The noble houses that had been so enthusiastic yesterday all seemed to have lost interest in today's auction. No one went to greet House Kang, and this made them very depressed. Although he had already expected this situation, no one would feel good if they were in his shoes. So you guys have that skin-beautifying golden creation too? This was the first thing Xiao Xiao said after waking up. She blinked her big watery eyes, evidently very excited about what happened at the end of the auction. She even forgot about the chest attack earlier. Lin Yi breathed a sigh of relief since Xiao Xiao didn't mention it. But Lin Yi didn't know how to answer Xiao Xiao's question. It's different from theirs. Oh, I know. It's the special edition injury medicine. Xiao Xiao nodded. I'll give you one? Lin Yi asked after some hesitation. I don't want it. What's the use of being that pretty? It can't prolong my life. Xiao Xiao didn't care about these things that other girls would go after. Don't try to get on my good side. Don't think that a special edition injury medicine can make up for what happened before. Ahem. Lin Yi was startled. Xiao Xiao hadn't forgotten about what happened before. What's wrong? I'm talking about you peeing on my head. Xiao Xiao looked at Lin Yi, confused. What do you think I'm talking about? Did you think it was you who saw me bathing, or that you touched my boobs? Why? Lin Yi's eyes widened. He almost jumped up as if someone stepped on his tail. This Xiao Xiao couldn't just say things like that. He wouldn't be able to explain himself if Tang Yun heard this. What? You don't dare to admit what you did? Xiao Xiao glared at Lin Yi. That's not it. I saw you bathing because I wanted to save you. Lin Yi said faintly. You can threaten me if you want. Then what about just now? You didn't touch me on purpose? Xiao Xiao asked. I did it on purpose. Lin Yi nodded, not denying it. You admit it now, right? Humph. Xiao Xiao was very pleased. She finally had something on Lin Yi. So what? Lin Yi shrugged, but he felt that it wasn't right. So what? I'll tell Tang Yun that you touched me. Xiao Xiao threatened. She won't believe you. You don't have proof. Lin Yi said. I do. I took a picture. Xiao Xiao waved her phone proudly. Lin Yi's head hurt. He stared at Xiao Xiao coldly. I don't like it when people threaten me. You're getting serious? How boring. Xiao Xiao saw that Lin Yi was angry and softened. She put her phone away. Fine, I won't threaten you. You have to compensate me, right? I'm a virgin. You touched me, and I'm no longer pure. You're a virgin now, too. Lin Yi was speechless. How could she not be a virgin with just a touch? Then I'm no longer pure. You have to compensate me. Xiao Xiao tried to make her voice sound sweet. Compensate. Lin Yi couldn't really reject this time. How do you want to compensate me? I'll think about it first. Xiao Xiao didn't show it on her face, but she was very pleased inside. Kang Xiaobo was right. Lin Yi was amenable to coaxing but not coercion. She couldn't threaten him, so she just had to act pitiful. Chapter 552. It should be fine. Lin Yi, are you done with your stuff? Pingzhan's voice sounded a little anxious. I just finished. What's wrong, Uncle Chu? Did something happen? Lin Yi asked. Yao Yao seems to have been kidnapped by Zhong Pingliang. Can you come back now? After the incident with the company last time, Pingzhan was used to looking for Lin Yi whenever there was something he couldn't solve. He had asked Faubert to investigate and follow Zhong Pingliang, but Zhong Pingliang didn't come into contact with Meng Yao. Faubert didn't know where Meng Yao was. Pingzhan didn't call the police because the situation was too complicated. First, he was worried about his daughter's reputation. Second, there wasn't enough evidence. Zhong Pingliang had Sihua's support, so Pingzhan couldn't do anything. In a battle of this level, many things were hidden in the dark. Calling the police wouldn't solve the root of the problem. Pingzhan didn't have the confidence to go against Sihua head-on. The power he represented was too strong. Even if Sihua helped Gubang to destroy his company's profits, Pingzhan couldn't do anything to him. Kidnapped? Lin Yi was surprised by Zhong Pingliang's boldness. He didn't know that this kid was quite daring. He even dared to kidnap someone? Did you call the police? No, Zhong Fabai's been with Sihua lately, and he's got a strong backer. I don't want to be enemies with him just yet. Pingzhan didn't hide anything from Lin Yi and told him the truth. Sihua again. Lin Yi frowned. This guy didn't know how to stop. 2 golden class masters were dead, and he was still jumping around. Lin Yi would have killed him if he didn't want to live a peaceful life for a few days. You want me to do it? Lin Yi asked. Yes. You're familiar with Zhong Pingliang and Yao Yao. It's best if you can find Yao Yao quietly, Pingzhan said. It's complicated. We'll talk face to face when you come back. Okay, I'll go back tonight. Lin Yi agreed. When Lin Yi hung up, Xiao Xiao asked, You're going back? I heard you say kidnapped. Who kidnapped him? We'll talk about it when we get back. I'm not too sure myself. Lin Yi waved his hand at Xiao Xiao. I'll be going first. You won't wait for my father to come back? He still wants to see his son-in-law. Xiao Xiao didn't want Lin Yi to leave so soon. This was a good chance. Their relationship would change when they got back to school. Even if it was stronger than before, it wouldn't be as harmonious as it was now. I'll see you later. Lin Yi didn't have time to deal with Xiao Xiao, he still had business to attend to. Although Lin Yi didn't have the obligation to protect Meng Yao, Lin Yi couldn't just sit back and do nothing if something happened to Meng Yao. Even now, Lin Yi still didn't understand why he was sent to Meng Yao's side. What kind of mission was he supposed to carry out? He asked Pingzhan a few times, but Pingzhan always gave him vague answers. From the miss, the answer Lin Yi got was that he was a shield. Of course, Lin Yi didn't believe that it was that simple, but he had no other choice. And so, Lin Yi was like a butler. Whether it was Pingzhan's company, the Miss Studies, or her best friend Shu, Lin Yi did everything he could to help. Not only did he have to be the babysitter for these two girls, but he also had to be a bodyguard. He even had to be a thug at school. But as time went on, Lin Yi got used to it. This mission was really complicated. From start to finish, it didn't seem like he had anything to do, but things never stopped. If it weren't for the old man's promise that the reward for this mission would be enough for him to retire, Lin Yi would have questioned it long ago. This miss really didn't let him have peace of mind. If something happened to her, Lin Yi couldn't just ignore it. It wasn't just the problem of Pingzhan being his employer anymore. Lin Yi really did have some feelings for Meng Yao and Yushu. After all, they lived under the same roof every day. If they were in danger, Lin Yi would definitely help them. Although the auction had ended, there were still some follow-up matters to take care of. The seller and the buyer had to stay behind. Lin Yi said goodbye to Guan Xuemin and Fatty Lai and took the plane back to Songzhan that night. He couldn't book economy-class tickets anymore. He could only book first-class tickets, but Falbert booked them directly. After getting off the plane, Lin Yi saw Falbert waiting at the arrival gate. "Falbert!" Lin Yi walked over quickly. "Mr. Lin, it's been a long journey," Falbert said apologetically. "I made you come back in such a hurry." "It's nothing. Something happened to Yao Yao, of course I had to come back." Lin Yi didn't expect Falbert to be so polite. In fact, Lin Yi felt a little guilty. After all, Meng Yao was in trouble when he was away. If one were to talk about responsibility, he was also responsible. Although Pingzhan didn't explicitly say that he would be Meng Yao's bodyguard, he only asked him to be a follower. But this kind of follower was more complicated. "Mr. Chu is waiting for you. This way, please." Falbert didn't say anything else. It wasn't appropriate for him to say too much. In the parking lot of the airport, in Falbert's Bentley, Lin Yi saw Pingzhan. Lin Yi didn't expect Pingzhan to come to pick him up. It was obvious that it was an emergency. Pingzhan couldn't wait to meet him. "Lin Yi, listen to this recording first." Pingzhan didn't waste time with small talk. He passed the recording pen to Lin Yi. Lin Yi nodded and pressed the play button. Pingliang's voice came from the recording pen. "Hello, Uncle Chu." It was a recording Pingzhan had made during Pingliang's visit. It was the evidence Pingzhan had left behind, but there was no need for him to go through the trouble of narrating the whole thing. The recording was enough to explain everything. Lin Yi frowned after listening to the recording. Pingliang dared to touch Meng Yao? "Uncle Chu, what do you mean?" Lin Yi wanted to know Pingzhan's plan first. "Falbert already checked. Yao Yao isn't at Pingliang's house. Pingliang didn't do anything strange today. He went to school, left school, and went home normally," Pingzhan said. "I thought Pingliang would find a chance to meet with Meng Yao, but he didn't." "Ha! Then Yao Yao should be fine." Lin Yi sighed and smiled. Chapter 553. Dealing with it calmly. From the way Pingliang spoke in the recording, I don't think he did anything to Yao Yao. Lin Yi knew Pingliang better. "He was probably testing your attitude, Uncle Chu. Before he left, he emphasized it a few times, asking you to think about it." "Yeah." Pingzhan wasn't an idiot. After Lin Yi's reminder, he immediately understood the crux of the matter. "That's right, Pingliang is quite cunning. He was testing my attitude. Yao Yao should be fine, but if I silently agreed to it, Zhong Pingliang would take action. What was done couldn't be undone. If I don't agree and react violently, he will give up his previous plan. But didn't he say before that even if I go to jail, it's nothing?" "That's just what he said." Lin Yi curled his lips. "Even if he knows that bullshit Sihua and some Master Bing, do you think Sihua would help him?" Ever since Lin Yi killed Sihua's 2 golden class masters, Sihua had quietened down a lot. Lin Yi could imagine how he was feeling right now. He probably hated and feared Lin Yi, but he couldn't do anything to Lin Yi. So, with Lin Yi around, Sihua wouldn't go looking for trouble to help Pingliang. Pingliang was obviously putting on a strong front, making up lies to scare people. Pingzhan nodded. I guess I was blinded by the situation. It seems like the reason why Pin Liang didn't meet with Meng Yao is because I didn't say anything. There's no point in him meeting Meng Yao. That should be it. Lin Yi nodded. In other words, no matter what choice I make, Pin Liang will meet with Meng Yao. This way, we can follow him and find Yao Yao, Ping Zhan said. That's right, but Pin Liang will always be a problem if we let him live. Why don't we use this opportunity? Lin Yi stopped there. If he didn't do anything to Yao Yao, it'll be hard to deal with him through legal means. Ping Zhan smiled bitterly and shook his head. What if it's an accident? Lin Yi asked calmly. Accident. Ping Zhan, naturally, understood what Lin Yi was implying. There were only 3 people in the car, and they were all trustworthy. Ping Zhan didn't hide anything. It may be an accident, but Zhong Fabai will still blame it on me. With Ping Zhan Industries' current situation, it's not a good time to start a feud. Ping Zhan was worried about Sihua. Fabai would go crazy if Pin Liang died, and if he gave Sihua enough benefits, he might be able to force Sihua to avenge him. Ping Zhan, on the other hand, wasn't a weakling, but Sihua was a tyrant in Songzhan. It was hard to say what would happen if they were to fight. I understand. Lin Yi sneered and thought of an idea. I will make this accident have nothing to do with us. If it was a normal assassination mission, Lin Yi wouldn't be overcautious. But since Lin Yi had decided to retire here, he wouldn't act rashly. It was easy to kill Pin Liang, but it wouldn't be worth it if he brought unnecessary trouble to Ping Zhan. Then I won't say more. Ping Zhan believed that Lin Yi would know what to do. Let's talk about Yao Yao and Shu first. Should we contact Pin Liang and follow him to where Yao Yao and Shu are being held? There's no need for that. I have a rough idea of where they are. Lin Yi smiled. Oh? Where? Ping Zhan was surprised. He didn't expect Lin Yi to know where Meng Yao and Yushu were being held. Mount Shuangyan, Lin Yi said. Shu sent me a message last night, saying that she and Yao Yao were going to Mount Shuangyan. I didn't think much of it at the time, but now it seems that they got into trouble there. Then should we go there now? Ping Zhan stood up excitedly when he found out where his daughter was being held. He only realized that he was sitting in the car when his head hit the roof. He turned to Faubert. Go to Mount Shuangyan immediately. Meng Yao and Yushu woke up one after another. Yushu was awakened by Meng Yao's scream. Yushu was still in a daze when she woke up. She rubbed her eyes blankly. Yao Yao, what are you screaming for? Did you have a nightmare? It's the middle of the night, and the sky is still dark. I need to sleep a bit more. Shu, wake up, we're not at home. Meng Yao shook Yushu's body in panic, trying to wake her up. Oh? Yushu finally woke up from Meng Yao's shaking. She said blankly. Where is this? Why is it so dark? I can't even see you. I don't know. We were here when I woke up. Meng Yao wasn't that scared with Yushu by her side. I thought we were at home too, but I felt a stone floor under me. We don't have our phones on us, and we've completely lost contact with the outside world. Yushu touched her body, and then touched her empty pockets. It was as Meng Yao said, it was a stone floor, and her phone was gone. But she was braver. Although it was dark, she wasn't afraid. Yao Yao, didn't we follow Zhong Pingliang into a cave? Are we still in the cave? Meng Yao only remembered what happened after Yushu's words. Indeed, they came with Pinliang, but they didn't know anything after that. Could it be that something happened to them? Zhong Pingliang and the others are here too? Meng Yao asked subconsciously. I don't know, I can't see anything. Should we stand up and look for them? Yushu was born brave, so she wasn't afraid. Meng Yao wanted to agree to Yushu's suggestion, but she was a little scared. The unknown in the dark was the scariest thing for Meng Yao. She wanted to know what was in the dark, but she was afraid of encountering something unknown. Then wait for me here, Yao Yao. I'll get up and look. Yushu said it casually, but she was still a girl. It was impossible for her not to be afraid. She was just a little braver. Let's go together then. Meng Yao was more afraid that Yushu would leave, and she'd be alone. That would be even scarier. Chapter 554. Intimate talk. In the small space of the cave, apart from a backpack, there were a few plastic boxes of unknown contents. It was too dark and Yushu didn't take a closer look. But one thing was for sure, there was no one else here other than the two of them. At this moment, the two of them realized that they might have been set up by Zhong Pingliang. Otherwise, why were there only the two of them here and not Zhong Pingliang and Gao Xiaofu? Yao sis, it must be that bastard Zhong Pingliang who locked us here. Yushu was furious. I was wondering why he lured us here. He wanted to lock us up. Shoo, it's all my fault. I trusted Zhong Pingliang too easily. Meng Yao bit her lips, knowing that she was tricked. It was obvious that Zhong Pingliang had lured her and Shu here on purpose, knocked them out, and locked them up. That so-called seeing someone who looked like her was a lie made up by Zhong Pingliang. Yao sis, how can I blame you? I know that you miss your mother. At this time, it's hard for you to think straight. Yushu didn't blame Yushu. Instead, she smiled and comforted Yushu. Shu! You know everything? Meng Yao looked at Yushu in surprise. But she couldn't see Yushu's expression in the dark. Of course, we're best friends. We grew up together. I know you better than Zhong Pingliang, right? Yushu sighed. I wouldn't have followed you here if I knew this. I could have thought of a way to save you outside. Now, no one knows that we came out with Zhong Pingliang. Meng Yao nodded. Shu, it's good that you don't blame me. I thought you didn't know anything. Oh right, why do you think Zhong Pingliang locked us up here? With Yushu's understanding, Meng Yao wasn't that afraid anymore. She calmed down. Especially after knowing that there was no one else in the stone room, Meng Yao wasn't nervous anymore. I don't know either. Pingliang shouldn't have the guts to do something like that. Isn't he always so obedient in front of Yao Yao? Yushu couldn't understand why Pingliang would suddenly do something like that. Well, I don't know. It can't be that I kept rejecting him, so he got angry and wanted to kill me, right? Meng Yao was startled. It was a little unbelievable, but it wasn't impossible. Wasn't there a lot of similar news on the internet? Meng Yao had laughed it off at the time, but now that she thought about it, she couldn't help but feel a chill run down her spine. Ah? No way. Then wouldn't I be in trouble too? Yushu said weakly. Yao Yao, I haven't lived long enough yet. Yushu didn't look scared at all, but her tone was a little funny, making Meng Yao chuckle out loud. Who's tired of living? Hey sister Yao Yao, do you think we're going to die here? I don't have a boyfriend yet, it's such a waste. My best years have just started. Yushu said with a sad face. You're still thinking about these things in a situation like this? Are you horny? Meng Yao was pissed. Why are you thinking about these things instead of how to escape? Escape? This is a security door. It wouldn't be called a security door if it could be opened so easily. Besides, we don't have tools or keys, how are we supposed to escape? Yushu said with a smile. We're going to die anyway, Yao Yao, let's talk for a while. Meng Yao was in a rush to escape, but after hearing Yushu's words, she felt that it made sense. If a security door could be opened so easily, it wouldn't be called a security door at all. Thinking about it was a waste of energy, she could only settle down. But she was a little annoyed at Yushu's thoughtlessness. You can still laugh at a time like this? Should I cry if I don't laugh? Even if I'm going to die, I can't die from depression. Yushu didn't care at all. Yao Yao, let's talk? Meng Yao was startled, but after hearing Yushu's words, she felt a lot better. Yushu was right, even if they were going to die, they couldn't die from depression, right? They might as well wait for death happily. Besides, they might not die from it. Okay, then what do you want to talk about? Meng Yao asked. Let's talk from the bottom of our hearts. Yushu held Meng Yao's hand. Yao Yao, we haven't talked from the bottom of our hearts for a long time. In the past, we didn't have any secrets between us. What do you mean no secrets? Didn't I get tricked by you to tell you everything? Meng Yao was angry when Yushu mentioned this. Her best friend looked dumb, but in fact, she was very smart. She often tricked her out of her heart, but Yushu didn't. Hee hee, we're going to die anyway, It's fine to talk now. Yushu laughed dryly. Yao Yao, what do you think of Shield Bro? Linny? Why, do you like him? Meng Yao asked. Yao Yao, we're going to die, and you're still like this? What's the point? I know you like Shield Bro too, right? Yushu blinked her eyes, but remembered that Meng Yao couldn't see. She wasted her eyes. Too? You like him too? Meng Yao caught on to Yushu's mistake. If you like him, then I have to like him. I'm a small wife for the rest of my life anyway, Yushu said matter-of-factly. I don't know if I like him or not. Meng Yao sighed. This was the first time she seriously discussed Lin Yi with Yushu. Because I don't know what it means to like someone. Oh, I don't know either. I just think that Shield Bro is a good guy, not as boring as other guys. Yushu continued to lead Meng Yao. Yeah, it's just that sometimes, I think he's annoying, but sometimes I'm worried about him. Meng Yao wasn't sure if she was talking to Yushu or just herself. That guy's so annoying, he still wants to go to Tangyun when he has us two beauties at home. Hee hee, Yao Yao, are you jealous? Yushu asked. I don't know, but I don't feel comfortable seeing him with Tangyun. Meng Yao shook her head. Oh, then do you like him? Yushu asked. Chapter 555. Am I going to die? Nope, I think Yao Yao sis is the best. Yushu waved her fist. Don't worry, Yao Yao sis, I'll help you win back Shield Bro's heart. You're going to die soon, what's there to win back? Meng Yao smiled. Shoo, are you regretting that you didn't do something with Linny? It's too late even if you die now, right? Nope, there'll be chances in the future anyway. Ugh. Yushu suddenly realized that she had let the cat out of the bag and quickly shut her mouth. Shoo, what are you talking about? Meng Yao was very smart. She could tell that something was wrong with Yushu. Are you hiding something from me? Hee hee, actually, before I came, I sent Shield Bro a message telling him that we're at Mount Shuangyan. If he finds out that we're missing, he'll definitely come back to save us. Yushu saw that Meng Yao had seen through her, so she couldn't hide it anymore. She stuck her tongue out and revealed her trump card. You stupid Shu, why didn't you say so earlier? You made me worry. You scared me to death. Meng Yao was so angry that she jumped up and grabbed Yushu's neck. I'll strangle you. You knew that we could get out, but you pretended to be dead and told me so much. What do you mean? If I didn't say that, Yao Yao sis wouldn't have told me that you like Shield Bro. Yushu smiled mischievously. Only a ghost would like him. Meng Yao was furious. I was just lying to you. I knew that Lin Yi would definitely come to save us. I said that to trick you into admitting that you like Lin Yi. Oh, Yao Yao sis, you're angry now. Yushu waved her hands and ran away. Using the darkness, Meng Yao couldn't find her. Come catch me. You can't catch me. I'll tear your mouth apart. Although Meng Yao couldn't see, she could follow the sound to chase after Yushu. The two started playing hide and seek in the dark. After a while, both of them were tired, and Yushu surrendered. Yao Yao, I'll stop, I give up. I like Shield Bro, alright? Let me go, heh, you admit it, right? Meng Yao said proudly. I'll tell Linny what you said when we get out of here. So what? I've already confessed, la la la. Yushu said nonchalantly. Meng Yao didn't really have a choice. Yushu had confessed to Lin Yi already, and there was no point in saying anything else. The two had been messing around for a long time, and they hadn't eaten anything for almost 5 hours. Yushu's stomach was growling. Yao Yao, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I want to eat, bear with it. Didn't you text Lin Yi? He'll probably save us after he receives it. Meng Yao said. Oh. Yushu nodded, feeling wrong. But I'm so hungry and thirsty. Who told you to be so crazy? Meng Yao was hungry and thirsty as well, but she had to bear with it. If she said the same thing, the two of them would starve to death. That's right, Yao sis, what was that bag we found just now? Could it be something delicious? Yushu asked suddenly. Maybe, but it might be poison left behind by Pin Liang. If we eat it, we'll be committing suicide. Meng Yao didn't think that the bag was food, but she couldn't understand why Pin Liang would leave food behind after locking them up. It wasn't like he wanted her and Yushu to survive, because there was food and no water. It was fine if a person didn't eat, but if they didn't drink water, they'd die faster. So, Meng Yao guessed that there might be poison in the bag, and Pin Liang left it behind on purpose so that they would commit suicide. This was also Pin Liang's mistake. He thought too simply and didn't consider the problem of water. He thought that Meng Yao and the others could survive as long as there was food. Oh, then I won't eat. Yushu was shocked and quickly gave up on the idea. But I still want to drink water and eat. Alright, Shu, let's sleep for a while. You won't be hungry or thirsty if you sleep. Meng Yao was also hungry and thirsty, but she had to act like an older sister. She comforted Yushu. Didn't you say that Lin Yi would definitely come to save us? Oh. Okay then. Yushu closed her eyes. Meng Yao sighed softly. It must be night now because there was no light from the peephole of the door. Meng Yao remembered clearly that the door faced the entrance of the cave. If it was daytime outside, they would be able to see the scene outside. Time passed, and the two girls snuggled against each other. Meng Yao could hear Yushu's even breathing, and she knew that Yushu had fallen asleep. Meng Yao was tired as well, so she fell asleep as well. When the two woke up again, there was a sliver of light coming from the peephole. It was daytime outside the cave. Of course, the two of them were not awakened by this weak light. Instead, they were awakened by a parched throat. They hadn't drunk a drop of water for more than 10 hours, and both of them were extremely thirsty. Yushu didn't feel hungry anymore. She just felt thirsty and wanted to drink water. Yao Yao, I'm thirsty, I really want to drink water, Yushu said with a hoarse voice, struggling to speak. Shu, be a good girl. Just bear with it. Meng Yao patted Yushu's back and said firmly. Lin Yi will definitely come to save us. Oh. Are you sure? Yushu didn't have much confidence now. She thought that Lin Yi would come soon, but it had been a night and Lin Yi wasn't here yet. She didn't know what time it was, but it must be the next day. And, if he doesn't come, I'll fire him, Meng Yao comforted. Yushu wanted to say that if he didn't come, how could she fire him? But in her heart, she hoped that Lin Yi would come. He was her last hope, and she didn't want her hope to be destroyed. Yao Yao, am I going to die? Why do I feel so weak? I just woke up and I want to sleep again. Yushu struggled to hold Meng Yao's hand. No, you're just too hungry, that's why you don't have any energy. Meng Yao shook her head. Oh, then I'll sleep a bit more. Yushu closed her eyes, but she couldn't fall asleep. Her stomach was growling, and her throat felt like smoke was coming out. Chapter 556. Chapter 556, Brave Yushu. Yao Yao sis, what's the first thing you want to do when you get out? Yushu couldn't fall asleep and started talking again. I don't know, but I know that if you talk you'll get thirstier, Meng Yao reminded. You better shut your mouth. Oh. Yao Yao sis, my lips are cracked, do you have lipstick? Yushu was still talking. No, Meng Yao said. I told you not to talk, why didn't you listen? Only then did Yushu shut her mouth. The two of them went to sleep, got hungry, and woke up. The jet lag was messy as well, and when they opened their eyes again, the light from the peephole was gone. It was night already. Yao Yao sis, I'm really going to die. Do you think Shield Bro didn't get the message? Yushu was in despair. No, he definitely can. Meng Yao was also panicking, but she still forced herself to be calm. No, I know we're going to die. Yao Yao sis, I can't hold on anymore. Yushu closed her eyes. Shu, be good, Lin Yi will definitely come, Meng Yao comforted guiltily. If he comes, ask him to carry my body back. I don't want my body to be exposed in the wild. Yushu murmured. Meng Yao was speechless. Shu, don't talk nonsense. If he doesn't mind, he can rub it on my corpse. I'll have a taste of what it's like to be a woman. Yushu was visibly dizzy from starvation, and her words weren't coherent at all. Lin Yi didn't ask Faubert to drive the car to Mount Shuangyan. Instead, he went back to the villa and brought General Weiwu over. Seeing General Weiwu, Pengzhan and Faubert's eyes were filled with admiration. They didn't think of using this method before. Lin Yi was more meticulous. At the foot of Mount Shuangyan, Lin Yi and Faubert got off the car and started walking up the mountain. Even Pengzhan followed. Lin Yi didn't think that Pinliang would lock them up in the resort. If they were in the resort, there was no way they wouldn't call for help. Even if they were tied up and had cotton stuffed in their mouths, the cleaning staff would still barge in. It was too dangerous. As long as Pinliang wasn't an idiot, he wouldn't do something so stupid. And so, Lin Yi shifted his attention to other places, leaving Pengzhan and Faubert to search the resort. Lin Yi, on the other hand, continued up the mountain. Standing at the fork in the mountain, Lin Yi stopped. There were quite a lot of tourists going up the mountain, but there shouldn't be too many people going in the direction of the fork. Although the mountain was a scenic area, it was inevitable that there would be some grass crawlers, grass snakes, and the like. Especially in the summer, no one would go to such a dangerous place for no reason. Lin Yi bent down and looked at the marks on the grass. It should be someone walked by recently, and after careful observation, it shouldn't be just one person. Lin Yi placed General Weiwu on the ground. General Weiwu had been scared quite a bit along the way. It didn't know why Lin Yi was carrying it. Was he going to kill it? It wanted to run, but it couldn't outrun Lin Yi. It could only tremble and wait for what was about to happen. But now, as soon as Lin Yi placed it on the ground, it could smell Meng Yao's scent. From its perspective, Lin Yi was still very afraid of Meng Yao. As long as it found Meng Yao and asked for her protection, then Lin Yi wouldn't be able to do anything to it. And so, without Lin Yi doing anything, General Weiwu started searching for Meng Yao's scent. It went all the way to the entrance of the cave, in front of the anti-theft door, but General Weiwu still couldn't find Meng Yao. He was at his wit's end. But General Weiwu didn't recognize the anti-theft door, but Lin Yi did. The moment he saw the anti-theft door, he immediately knew that this must be the place where Meng Yao and Yushu were in prison. And Lin Yi's hearing was very good. The moment he entered the cave, he heard Yushu's mumbling, and he almost fell to the ground. Lin Yi's head was full of black lines. Yushu's idea was really something. He didn't have any perverted hobbies. Running to her corpse to have sex? Lin Yi coughed dryly and knocked on the anti-theft door. Yao Yao Shu! Oh, Yao Yao sis, I'm really going to die. I'm hallucinating. I think I heard Shield Bro's voice, Yushu said in a daze. Lin Yi? Is that you? Although Meng Yao was hungry and thirsty, her mind was very clear. She immediately shouted when she heard Lin Yi's voice. She was like a person who saw the light in the dark. She suddenly felt relaxed and excited. Shu, your Shield Bro is here to save you, ugh! Yao Yao sis, you're lying? I'm hallucinating, Yushu said and suddenly sat up. Really? I'm not hallucinating? Lin Yi looked at the anti-theft door. There was no one else around, and he didn't care about revealing his strength anymore. He raised his leg and kicked the anti-theft door, and Lin Yi held back a lot of strength. He was afraid that the door would be sent flying and hurt the two girls. Yushu finally woke up from her stupor when she heard the loud bang. Shield Bro? It's me. Lin Yi kicked a few more times, and the anti-theft door was completely destroyed. He walked into the cave. Are you guys okay? Wah! Meng Yao cried tears of joy. She didn't know how she got through this. Although she was scared, she knew that if she gave up, Yushu wouldn't be able to hold on anymore. So she gritted her teeth and held on. When Lin Yi came, she finally couldn't hold it anymore and vented her feelings. I'm sorry I'm late. Lin Yi held Meng Yao's hand and gently patted her back. Don't cry, let's go home now. Suddenly, Yushu grabbed Lin Yi's arm and bit down on it. What are you doing? Lin Yi stared at Yushu in pain. Oh, it's not a dream, I thought it was a dream. Shield Bro, you really came. Yushu's listlessness disappeared, and her excited face regained some color. I'm not here, I'm scared of having sex with corpses. Yushu's bite hurt, and Lin Yi was pissed off. Why didn't this girl bite herself? Was she using him as a guinea pig? He couldn't help but expose her. Yushu froze, and her eyes widened. You heard it? Only if I'm deaf. Lin was speechless. Meng Yao, on the other hand, started laughing out loud. This Shu really knew how to make a fool out of herself. Lin even heard what she said. How embarrassing! Chapter 557. Help you take revenge, Meng Yao, and you should remember that Pingzhan and Falbert must be panicking after being away for a whole day. They quickly stood up. Yushu, on the other hand, was feeling a little dizzy the moment she stood up. She'd been very excited just a moment ago. Lin jumped in fright and quickly supported Yushu. Carry her. Her body isn't as good as mine, Meng Yao said to Lin. Can you? Lin saw that Meng Yao was also a little unstable. After all, who wouldn't be able to stand after a whole day without food? Yeah. Meng Yao nodded. She wasn't standing too stably either, but she was still stronger than Yushu. Ha, let's go together. Lin carried Yushu with both hands and said to Meng Yao. Together? Meng Yao's eyes widened. Lin, on the other hand, squatted down and hugged Yushu before stretching out his arms. You come up too. You. Can you do it? Meng Yao looked at Lin in disbelief. Usually, it was already very good to carry a person down the mountain. After all, the mountain path wasn't easy to walk on. But Lin wanted to carry too. Wasn't he too strong? He can even kick down the security door. What do you think? Lin wanted to say that it was dangerous to say that he couldn't do it in front of a man, but Meng Yao didn't mean it. Meng Yao was really tired. After a moment of hesitation, she remembered that Lin was strong enough to kick down the security door. She fell on Lin's arms. Lin walked out of the cave with the two misses in his arms. He remembered that he didn't call Pingzhan in a hurry. But now that his arms were occupied, he couldn't make a phone call. However, when he was going down the mountain, he saw Pingzhan and Falbert at the entrance of the resort. The two had just come out of the resort, and it was obvious that they didn't get anything. They looked up and were overjoyed to see Lin carrying two people. Yao Yao Shu! Pingzhan ran over in a few steps, completely losing his composure as a chairman. At this moment, he was just a father worried about his daughter's safety. It's okay. Maybe they're too tired. They fell asleep. Lin smiled bitterly. He didn't expect the two to fall asleep so quickly, but the smiles on their faces told him that they were sleeping soundly. Meng Yao and Yushu, knowing that they'd been saved, were no longer as worried as before. All they wanted was a good rest. Falbert wanted to help Lin, but he didn't want to wake up Meng Yao and Yushu. He smiled apologetically. Pingzhan, on the other hand, rubbed his hands in excitement. He found his daughter, and it seemed like she wasn't hurt. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to sleep so peacefully. When they got in the car at the foot of the mountain, Lin had to put the two down. Meng Yao and Yushu, on the other hand, had slept for quite a while. They were just a little tired. They woke up and rubbed their eyes. When Meng Yao saw her father, she couldn't help but jump into Pingzhan's arms. Dad! Pingliang, that bastard locked us up. You have to avenge me. Don't worry, Yao Yao. It's okay, Pingzhan sighed. It was the first time his daughter had suffered so much in her life. Meng Yao had someone to talk to, but Yushu didn't. She looked at Meng Yao, who was in Pingzhan's arms, and turned to Lin. She jumped into Lin's arms. Shield bro, you have to avenge us. Yushu only wanted comfort. She didn't have any other intentions. She just hugged Lin. Lin patted Yushu's shoulder. Even without Yushu, Lin wouldn't let Pingliang go. It was just that he had to do it in a roundabout way. Since Pingzhan didn't want to add to the conflict, Lin planned to shift the conflict to someone else. After returning to the villa, Lin comforted Meng Yao and Yushu for a while before going back to his room. He still had to deal with Pingliang. He used his computer to extract a part of the recording and called Zhang Wen. Zhang Wen picked up quickly. Lil bro Lin? Jiangwen didn't expect Lin to call him on his own. He gave Lin some money, but he wasn't sure if Lin Yi would help him find Ming Yao's information. From Jiang Wen's point of view, Lin Yi wasn't someone easy to get along with. "And bro, it's me," Lin Yi said. "Do you have time now?" "Now? What's up?" Jiang Wen was drinking with ties outside. He didn't know why Lin Yi was calling him. "And bro, I didn't disappoint you. After a lot of hard work, I finally found some information about Meng Yao at school. It's about her pursuers," Lin Yi said. "Oh? Is it about Meng Yao? I have time. Where are you? I'll come pick you up right now and we'll talk face to face." Jiang Wen's interest was piqued immediately upon hearing that it was about Meng Yao. He didn't have anything to do right now. Even if he did, he'd push it off first. "I'm at Meng Yao's villa. Come over then. I'll wait for you," Lin Yi said. "Okay, I'll be there in 10 minutes," Jiang Wen said immediately. Meng Yao and Yushu were back to normal by the time he walked out of the room. The two of them were stuffing themselves in the dining room, and it seemed like they were starving. "I'll go out for a bit. I'll help you guys get revenge." Lin Yi smiled. The two girls looked really cute now. Okay. Yushu's mouth was full of food. She waved her fist excitedly when she heard Lin Yi's words. Meng Yao didn't say anything. She only looked at Lin Yi. "Be careful." Lin Yi wasn't used to the Mrs. Gentleness. He paused for a moment before nodding. Pingzhan didn't know what Lin Yi was going to do, but Lin Yi promised not to drag Pingzhan Industries into this. "Where are you going? Do you want Faubert to send you?" Pingzhan asked. "No need. There's someone here to pick me up." Lin Yi smiled. Lin Yi's words surprised everyone in the living room. There was someone here to pick Lin Yi up? Lin Yi smiled and walked out of the villa. Jiang Wen's car was already there. He got out immediately when he saw Lin Yi. "Lin Yi bro, get in, get in." Chapter 558. Chapter 558, Revenge Comes. "Of course, Lin Yi bro, I know about your hard work. Don't worry, I won't let you do it for nothing. Tell me, what's the matter?" Jiang Wen asked impatiently. "And bro, listen to this recording first." Lin Yi handed the recording pen to Jiang Wen. Jiang Wen quickly took the recorder and pressed the play button, listening attentively. It wasn't long before his face turned ugly. He started cursing right in front of Lin Yi. "Motherfucker, who the fuck is this bastard? I'll kill him if he dares to make me a cuckold. Haha, and bro, don't worry. I've already saved Yao Yao. He didn't get what he wanted. He's just trying to blackmail Uncle Chu." Lin Yi told Jiang Wen his analysis. He had to make Jiang Wen feel at ease. Otherwise, Jiang Wen would think that Meng Yao was a second-hand good. What if he gave up on her? This would give him the confidence to take care of Meng Yao's love rival. "Lin Yi bro, you came at the right time. I can't thank you enough. If it weren't for you, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Don't worry, I won't mistreat you." Jiang Wen patted Lin Yi's shoulder emotionally. At this moment, he was sure that after Lin Yi accepted his payment last time, he didn't hold any grudges against him anymore. Lin Yi was sincerely helping him. Jiang Wen couldn't be blamed for thinking this way. After all, Lin Yi was only Meng Yao's bodyguard. He had a girlfriend as well. There was no conflict of interest between them. He even gave Lin Yi a huge sum of money. Why wouldn't Lin Yi do his best to help him? Sigh, but and bro, Meng Yao's love rival needs to be taught a lesson. I can't guarantee that I'll be so lucky next time, Lin Yi reminded. If you don't tell me, I'll kill him. How dare he touch Yao Yao? He must be tired of living. Jiang Wen smiled coldly. What's his name? If you tell me, I'll kill him tomorrow. His name is Zhong Pingliang. I have his photo here. I'll send it to you with my phone, Lin Yi said as he sent the photo to Jiang Wen. Lin Yi, my old brother, originally I wanted to invite you to have dinner, but this kind of thing happened. You should also protect Yao Yao and the villa, Jiang Wen said. I need to get ready to teach this Zhong Pingliang a lesson, so I'll be going back first. I'll treat you another day. There's no need for a meal, but as for the expenses, you see if it's... Lin Yi said with a smile. No problem. Jiang Wen was much more satisfied than last time. After all, Lin Yi had really helped him with something. This time the money wasn't wasted. "I'll transfer another 1 million to you tomorrow," Jiang Wen said straightforwardly. "Ha! Thank you, and bro." Lin Yi smiled. He didn't reject the offer. 1 million wasn't much to him, but who wouldn't want more money from Jiang Wen? Pingzhan stayed in the villa for the first time. The next day, Meng Yao and Yushu stayed at home to rest. They didn't go to school. In fact, Lin Yi planned to let Jiang Wen deal with Zhong Pingliang first before letting them show themselves. As usual, Pingliang took a taxi to school. He didn't show it on his face, but he was panicking on the inside. Why hadn't Pingzhan contacted him in 2 days? Did he agree or not? He had to say something at least, right? After getting off the taxi, Pingliang was about to walk into school when 4 bulky men stopped him. One of them asked, "You're Zhong Pingliang, right?" "You." "What do you want?" Pingliang jumped. He didn't know what they wanted from him, but it was obvious that it wasn't anything good. He wanted to run away subconsciously. However, the 4 of them surrounded him from all sides. He had nowhere to run. The man who asked the question compared the photo in his hand and nodded to the others. Without a word, they grabbed Pingliang and dragged him into a van not far away. Jiang Wen sat in the front passenger seat and watched Pingliang get caught. He said fiercely, "How dare he touch Meng Yao? He'll be arrogant if I don't teach him a lesson. I'll cut off your kidney and see if you can still be so cocky." Behind a garbage disposal station in the western suburbs of Songzhan, Pingliang was pushed into a basement by 4 bulky men. The basement was filled with the smell of disinfectant, and Pingliang couldn't help but sneeze. "Who are you people? What do you want with me? Do you know who my father is? It's Zhong Fabai. Let me go if you know what's good for you, or I'll make you pay," Pingliang yelled, trying to put up a strong front. "Fuck! What are you yelling for? Do you want to die?" A tattooed man walked over and slapped Pingliang's face. "How dare you yell in here? You must be crazy! You! Pingliang was shocked and angry, but he didn't dare to provoke the tattooed man too much. This guy looked like a gangster. Although his father was also a gangster, he was like a tiger that was bullied by dogs. Who knew if these people wanted to kill him or not? "Bring him in first, and check his body." The tattooed man waved his hand to the 4 bulky men, and they brought Pingliang into a room. The tattooed man turned and walked into another room. Jiang Wen was sitting inside, playing with a sharp scalpel with a dark expression. "Wen bro, do you want to do it yourself?" the tattooed man asked respectfully. "Yes, I'll do the first cut later. Inject him with the anesthetic that can make him feel but can't move. I want him to remember this lesson. Let's see if he dares to touch my woman again," Jiang Wen said coldly. "Wen bro, he just said his father's name is something like Zhong Fabai," the tattooed man said carefully. "Zhong Fabai? What does he do?" Jiang Wen asked. "He's a gangster in this city. He owns a casino and a hotel." The tattooed man introduced Fabai's background. "What the hell is this? Do you even need to mention this kind of person?" Jiang Wen lost interest immediately after hearing that it was just a gangster. He waved his hand impatiently and said, "Hurry up and do it." "Yes." The tattooed man saw that Jiang Wen didn't care about Fabai's background at all, so he didn't say anything else. He turned around and went to make the arrangements. Chapter 559. You better remember this. Unfortunately, he still had his senses and consciousness. He could still see the people in front of him and hear their words. However, he couldn't move or speak. His eyes stared blankly. It took him a lot of effort to even move his eyes. He wanted to call for help, but he couldn't. After a while, Pingliang was pushed onto the operating table. He was terrified. He wanted to scream and resist, but he couldn't. He was conscious. His body wasn't controlled by his brain. "Wen bro, it's ready! You can use the scalpel now," the tattooed man said respectfully to Jiang Wen. Jiang Wen entered the operating room with the scalpel in his hand. He looked at Pin Liang on the operating table. His eyes flashed with hatred. How dare you steal my woman in Songshan? I'll teach you a lesson. You won't know your place if I don't teach you a lesson. How do I do it? Jiang Wen walked over and raised the scalpel, ready to start. Pin Liang's eyes were filled with fear. He didn't know what the person in front of him was going to do. Did he want to kill him? How did he offend such a powerful person? He wanted to call for help, but he couldn't. He wanted to close his eyes, but he couldn't control his eyelids. Wen bro, you just need to make a cut here. It's about this long. A doctor wearing a mask explained to Jiang Wen. Got it. Jiang Wen nodded. From his point of view, it didn't matter if the wound was bigger. It was just a few stitches. As for whether Pin Liang was in pain or not, the more the better. The doctor was a cold-blooded killer. He wasn't nervous at all. He wasn't worried that Jiang Wen would kill him. After all, there were at least 8 to 10 people who died on the operating table. Fuck! You better remember this. There are some people you can't touch. If you dare touch Meng Yao again, I'll kill you! Jiang Wen glared at Pin Liang. I'll cut off one of your kidneys to teach you a lesson. Next time, I'll cut off your head. Pin Liang finally understood that the person in front of him was here to avenge Meng Yao. But since when did Meng Yao know someone like this? Was he sent by Ping Zhan? Pin Liang wanted to shout, "Don't you dare!" However, this was only his fantasy. He couldn't speak at all. Swoosh! Jiang Wen ignored Pin Liang, not even bothering to listen to his explanation. He used the scalpel and opened up a large wound on Pin Liang's body. Pin Liang's face twitched in pain, but there was nothing he could do. Don't forget about it. With that, Jiang Wen tossed the scalpel to the side and walked out of the surgery room. Meng Yao, don't even think about it anymore. With that, Jiang Wen threw the scalpel to the side and walked out of the surgery room. He wanted to stab Pin Liang a few more times, but he was afraid that he'd damage his kidneys. A kidney could be sold for hundreds of thousands. That was money! The operation without anesthesia was already painful enough. If the kidney was removed without anesthesia, Pin Liang would definitely die. After Jiang Wen left, the doctor gave Jiang Wen anesthetics, and soon, Pin Liang lost consciousness. The doctor's movements were swift and precise. He cut off one of Pin Liang's kidneys and had the tattooed man dump him at the entrance of Songshan's first hospital before leaving. If it wasn't for the fact that he didn't want the situation to get out of hand, Jiang Wen would have killed Pin Liang directly. Fabai received a call from the hospital and heard that his son's kidney was cut off. He was furious and rushed to the hospital. His son was already awake on the bed. Fabai was shocked and angry at the same time. In Songshan, there was someone who dared to do this to his son. Did they want to die? Pin Liang saw that his father was here and started bawling. Losing one of his kidneys for no reason was a disaster from the heavens. He knew that a person's health would be affected after losing his kidney. It was hard to say if he could still be a normal man in the future. He felt so wrong. Most importantly, he didn't know who did it. Dad, you have to avenge me. I lost a kidney for no reason. I'm so unlucky. Zhong Pingliang started sobbing. Who did it? Fuck, if I find out, I'll kill his whole family. Fabai was furious. Pin Liang was his only son. How could he not be angry? I don't know. They pushed me to the operating table, gave me anesthetics, and cut off my kidney. Pin Liang cried. But the person who did the surgery said it was because of Meng Yao. He told me to stay away from her. Oh! Meng Yao? Fabai was stunned. Could it be Ping Zhan? No, even if you were chasing after his daughter, he wouldn't cut off one of your kidneys, right? I think it must be. Even if it wasn't, it must have something to do with him. Pin Liang wanted to keep it a secret, but after some hesitation, he decided to tell his father what he'd done earlier. Fabai's face turned ugly. Pin Liang was too bold, wasn't he? He dared to kidnap Meng Yao? He even dared to threaten Ping Zhan? When Fabai heard that it was Ping Zhan who did it, he wanted to take revenge. But after listening to Pin Liang's explanation, he fell into silence. After all, he was the one in the wrong. It was reasonable for Pingjan to take revenge. But this revenge was a little too cruel. It would be fine if it was just a beating and a broken leg, but it was a kidney that was cut off. Although he had made friends with Master Bing these few days, Fabai was no match for Pingjan with his own strength. Now, he could only discuss with Sihua and see if he could help him. After all, he was working for Sihua. He couldn't just ignore his son's kidney being cut off, could he? And so, Fabai left Pin Liang in the hospital. In order to comfort his son, he told him to focus on the treatment. Losing a kidney was nothing. At least he wouldn't die. Pin Liang naturally knew that losing a kidney wouldn't kill him, but he couldn't lose it for nothing. His body wouldn't be as strong as before, and he wouldn't even have the strength to pick up girls. This made Pin Liang sad, but there was no point in being sad. Revenge was the most important thing now. Fabai and Sihua were in the honeymoon stage, so when Fabai called to ask for a meeting, Sihua gladly agreed. The location was set at the Floating Cloud Bar. "Bro Zhong, why are you looking for me so early in the morning?" Sihua stood up to welcome Fabai when he came to the bar. This was already giving Fabai enough face. Chapter 560. Chapter 560. Trouble at Kang Xiaobo's house. "Sihua bro, is Master Bing here?" Fabai was relieved to see Sihua's enthusiasm. It seemed like there was still hope for him. "Master Bing fought with 3 girls until midnight last night. He hasn't woken up yet," Sihua said casually. Fabai was considered one of his own now, so Sihua didn't hide anything. "Hee, Master Bing is really something. We're no match for this kind of combat power." Zhong Fabai gave a thumbs up and complimented without showing any emotion. "Of course, who is Master Bing?" Sihua smiled faintly. "Bro Zhong, do you need something from him?" "I don't need to trouble Master Bing with my matters. Sihua bro can help me," Fabai flattered. "What is it? Tell me." Sihua didn't let Fabai's flattery get to his head. He asked directly. "Sihua bro, this time, Pingjan's really messing with my head. You have to get justice for me." Fabai sat in front of Sihua and said sternly, "I'm Master Bing's man now. As the saying goes, you have to look at the master before you hit the dog. He's gone too far." Fabai's face darkened. "Oh? What happened to Pingjan?" Sihua asked faintly. "My son Pin Liang was only chasing after his daughter, Meng Yao, but Pingjan cut off one of his kidneys. Wasn't Pingjan being too ruthless? He doesn't even put Sihua bro and Master Bing in his eyes," Fabai said angrily. "Wait, what did you say? Cut off one of his kidneys?" Sihua froze. If it was something else, it might be possible to say that Pingjan did it, but cutting off a kidney? Wasn't that a little too much? Moreover, Fabai's words reminded Sihua of another person. "Are you sure it's Pingjan?" "Well, I don't have proof yet, but it's definitely him," Fabai cried. "My son said that the person who cut off his kidney warned him to stay away from Pingjan, or else he would kill him. This must be Pingjan's doing." "I see." Sihua nodded. "All right, you can go back first. I'll discuss this with Master Bing when he wakes up." Sihua was a tactful man. Naturally, he wouldn't promise Zhong Fabai anything directly, even if Zhong Fabai was one of them now. "Sihua bro, you can't just ignore this. Pingjan has gone too far this time." Fabai saw that Sihua's attitude was neither warm nor cold, and he didn't express whether he was going to help or not. He wouldn't be a match for Pingjan if Sihua didn't do anything. "I understand. If this is really Pingjan's doing, Master Bing will definitely help you," Sihua said faintly, implying that there was nothing he could do if it had nothing to do with Pingjan. Master Bing had been eyeing Pingjan's property for a long time. Even without Fabai, Master Bing would still want to deal with Pingjan. He might as well do Pingjan a favor. "All right, I'll go back and wait for Master Bing and Sihua bro's good news." Fabai knew that there was no point in saying anything now. He had to wait for Master Bing to wake up first. Something big had happened in Kang Xiaobo's house recently. Someone had come to cause trouble in their tea house. Kong Xiaobo had wanted to look for Lin Yi, but Lin Yi had gone to Yanjing. He didn't know if he was back yet, and Kong Xiaobo didn't want to disturb Lin Yi. He could only deal with it himself. Kong Fu was an intellectual. He had always been doing his business honestly, and his business was quite good. So even if Kong Xiaobo's family wasn't rich, they were at least moderately well off. However, this tranquility was broken. Ever since a month ago, Kong Xiaobo's tea house opened a leisure club opposite their tea house. House King's tea house hadn't been peaceful for a long time. House King's tea house had been open for many years, and it was considered an old brand in this area. There were quite a lot of customers, and naturally, the new tea house didn't have as many customers as Kong Xiaobo's tea house. The owner of the tea house, Zhang Baji, got some gangsters to harass House King's tea house every day, making it hard for the tea house to continue doing business. Although House King's tea house was an old brand, it couldn't handle a group of red-haired, green-haired, and yellow-haired people making noise in the tea house every day. The tea house was an elegant place, and most of the people who went there were couples and businessmen. Who could stand these gangsters playing cards and gambling inside? But unfortunately, although these gangsters were making noise in the tea house, they didn't do anything else. Even if Kong Fu wanted to call the police, he couldn't do anything about it. They were customers, and they came here to drink tea. It was just a pot of tea for a day. As for playing cards, the tea house originally provided free chess and card services. It was just that these people played too intensely, and their voices were a little too loud. To put it bluntly, they were customers. Don't care what they did, they were here to spend money. Therefore, even though Kong Fu knew that he had offended someone, he didn't have any temper. Seeing that the tea house's profits were declining day by day, Kong Fu couldn't do anything about it. The money these gangsters spent on tea wasn't even enough to cover their daily expenses. After a month, Kong Fu really couldn't take it anymore. He wanted to change the situation, but he didn't expect the other party to come looking for him. However, Zhang Baji didn't come alone. The person who came with him was a big shot in Songhan. Kong Fu also heard of this big shot's name. Seeing that he came with Zhang Baji, he knew what happened to his tea house previously. President Kong, we're in the same industry. Although we haven't met before, I've heard a lot about you. Zhang Baji came in and greeted Kong Fu enthusiastically. Come, let me introduce you to a friend. This is President Zhou from TND Entertainment Company. This is his eldest son, Zhou Roguang, from our North District. If President Kong has any trouble in the future, you can look for him. We're iron friends. As he said that, Zhang Baji gave a thumbs up. Kong Fu couldn't help but frown. Isn't this an obvious threat? However, facing these people, Kong Fu didn't have any temper at all. He wasn't a kid anymore. He knew the rules of society. They were powerful, and it was obvious that they were bullying him. What could he do to them? President Zhou, President Zhang, may I know why the two of you are here? Are you here to drink tea or to compare notes on business? Although Kong Fu was annoyed, he knew that he couldn't afford to offend these people, so he spoke in neither servile nor overbearing manner. Chapter 561. Forced buying and selling. A trace of anger flashed in Mr. Kang's eyes, but he knew very well what would happen to him if he went against these people. At this moment, he could only swallow his anger and smile apologetically. Brother Zhou, don't be angry, I didn't mean that, bro. What bro? How am I small? You mother fasterest cur, are you looking down on people? Zhou Roguang slapped Mr. Kang's face with a pa sound, and 5 red marks appeared on his face directly. Kong Mu heard the commotion and ran out. She was furious when she saw her man getting slapped. Who are you? Why are you causing trouble here? Kong Fu jumped when he saw Kong Mu. He quickly gave her a look. These people were not people he could mess with. He introduced them with a smile. This is Mr. Zhang, this is Mr. Zhou, and this is... Brother Zhou. Kong Fu didn't dare call Zhou Roguang little bro Zhou anymore. He could only call him Brother Zhou. Although it was infuriating to call someone younger than him, and not much older than his son, he couldn't do anything about it. Old Kong, what are you doing? They're here to cause trouble, aren't they? Call the police. I don't believe they're more powerful than the police. Kong Mu panicked when she saw Kung Fu being so submissive. Ha ha! Zhou Tiandi laughed. Call the police? Of course. I'd like to see what the police can do to me. We're customers here to drink tea. You hit people. Kong Mu pointed at Zhou Ruoguang. Hit people? Did you? Did you see that? Old man, did I hit you? Zhou Ruoguang glared at Kung Fu. No. No. Kung Fu knew that these hooligans couldn't do anything to them even if they called the police. They didn't do anything to them. They only slapped them. It wasn't even a security issue. But when the police leave, you'll be in trouble. They'll come and harass you every day. Kong Mu was stunned. She immediately realized that these people in front of her were not ordinary people who came to drink tea. If her man was afraid of them to this extent, they must have a strong background. However, she did not know the identity of these people, so she looked at Kung Fu with some doubts. Kung Fu sighed and walked over, whispering, Mr. Zhang is the owner of the Level 8 tea house across the street, Mr. Zhou is Tiandi Entertainment's CEO, and that blonde is Zhou Ruoguang, the leader of the North District's gangsters. We can't afford to mess with him. What? It's them. This time, Kong Mu was shocked. Kong Mu knew about Zhang Baji's dirty tricks, but she didn't expect his backer to be so powerful. Zhang Baji, Zhou Tiandi, and Zhou Ruoguang naturally saw Kong Mu's expression. They knew that Kung Fu had told her about their identities. Zhang Baji said proudly, Boss Kong, I heard that your tea house is about to be sold due to poor management. I'm interested in taking over. Let's have a chat. Sold? Kung Fu froze. He saw Zhang Baji's expression and knew what he was up to. Wasn't this the real-life version of forced buying and selling? Although he felt uncomfortable, Kung Fu knew that his tea house would lose money if he continued to run it like this. He might as well sell it. He nodded. That's what I mean. How much do you want to take over, Mr. Zhang? Well, I don't know how much it is. Zhou bro, can you estimate it for me? Zhang Baji pretended to not know and looked at Zhou Tiandi. Kung Fu and Kong Mu's hearts went cold. Zhang Baji owned a tea house. Did he know how much it was? Who was he trying to fool? But Zhang Baji's attitude was obviously telling Zhou Tiandi to set the price so that he wouldn't dare to bargain. I think that the retail houses on this street are around 10,000 per square meter. The ones above and below you are around 200 square meters. I'll give you a fixed price. Round it up 2 million, Zhou Tiandi said faintly. What? Kung Fu looked at Zhou Tiandi stunned. The retail houses on this street were indeed 10,000 per square meter, but that was the floor space. His tea house was 200 square meters, and the floor space was close to 300 square meters. That was at least 7 or 8 million, and that was just the price of the house. The decorations, the tea set, and the precious tea leaves were all worth at least 1 million. There was once someone who wanted to buy the tea house and offered 4 million to Kung Fu, but he didn't budge. Zhou Tiandi was willing to sell half of it at once. Haha, Dad, this old thing is scared out of his wits by your price. I told you, you're offering too much. This tea house is only worth 1 million at most. Zhou Ruoguang interrupted. Uncle Zhang runs a tea house, he knows the price. Am I right? If Master Zhou says it's worth, then it's worth it. Zhang Baji nodded and said, But since Zhou bro has spoken, I can't just give that much. Let's go with 2 million. What do you think, Boss Kong? I have a title certificate for this house, and the floor space is 280 square meters. I'm still renovating. There was no way Kung Fu would sell the tea house for 2 million. He thought that if Zhang Baji offered 4 million yuan, he would sell it. But 2 million yuan was too much of a difference. His family lived in a tea house, and if he sold the tea house, he would have to buy a new house. Even if he didn't buy it in a good location in the city, and bought it near Ningshi Road near the slums, it would still cost more than 8,000 per square meter. A house would cost more than $1 million. What was left with $2 million for a house? Would his family still be able to live? Who buys a house and renovates it? Zhou Ruoguang spoke again. Old man, are you stupid? Haven't you heard? The money spent on renovations is the compensation money. Who would buy a second-hand house and let you renovate it? Kung Fu was speechless from Zhou Ruoguang's words, but he didn't dare to refute. After all, Zhou Ruoguang was the leader of the gangsters, and he might start a fight if he wasn't careful. Kung Fu didn't dare to provoke him. I think it's settled. Since you said 280 square meters, then 280 it is. I'll give you 280,000. Zhang Baji's price was actually 4 million, but he asked someone to ask Kung Fu before, and he said that he wouldn't sell it for 4 million. All right, since you won't sell it, then I can only think of a way to make you sell it. Zhang Baji naturally couldn't give Kung Fu 4 million because he had already given Zhou Tiandi 500,000 to settle this matter, and Zhou Tiandi promised to buy the tea house within 3 million. Chapter 562. Chapter 562. My boss is Lin Yi. Zhang Baji laughed coldly in his heart. What were you doing earlier? You refused to sell when I offered you 4 million, and now you want to sell? But it was too late. The highest I can offer is 8 million. If you don't want to sell, then I can't do anything about it. You can sell it to someone else for 4 million, Zhang Baji said calmly. However, with the way your tea house is doing, I'm afraid no one will buy it. You! Kung Fu knew that Zhang Baji was threatening him. He was furious. He glared at Zhang Baji with bloodshot eyes. This wasn't a matter of cowering or being afraid. It was a matter of his family's future. Kung Fu was stubborn. You can't kill me if I don't want to sell, can you? Hence, he said. Don't bully an honest man. I don't want to provoke you, but that doesn't mean I'm afraid, eh? Old man, did we bully you? Zhou Ruoguang looked at Kung Fu with interest. You don't want to sell, right? We'll come here every day to drink tea. When Kang Xiaobo returned to the tea house after school, he realized that the atmosphere wasn't right the moment he pushed the door open. When he heard that the person in front of him wanted to force his father to sell the tea house, he was furious. What were these people doing? Don't bully my dad! Kang Xiaobo ran over and stood in front of Kung Fu, glaring at Zhou Ruoguang, Zhou Tiandi, and Zhang Baji. Why did this person look familiar? Kang Xiaobo was taken aback. Zhou Ruoguang and Zhou Tiandi thought that Kang Xiaobo looked familiar as well, but they couldn't remember where they had seen him before. Kid, where are you from? There's nothing for you to do here. Go back to your room and do your homework. Zhou Ruoguang mocked. He didn't care about Kang Xiaobo at all. Kang Xiaobo wanted to look for Lin Yi, but Lin Yi had gone out. He had no choice but to step forward. He couldn't let these people bully his father, could he? Kang Xiaobo had been with Lin Yi recently, so he wasn't as cowardly as before. He felt that he was a responsible man. I'm with Boss Lin. Where are you from? Xiaobo knew that Lin Yi was strong, but that was only limited to within the school. He didn't know if he could scare these people. Xiaobo, stop fooling around. Go back to your room and read. When Mr. Kang saw his son coming back from school and confronting these people, he was immediately frightened. He was afraid that his son was young and impetuous and would cause some trouble. Lin? Which boss Lin? Zhou Ruoguang paused. He was just trying to make fun of Kang Xiaobo. He didn't know that Kang Xiaobo would actually come up with a boss Lin. But after thinking about it, he realized that there wasn't a boss Lin among the more powerful people in Songzhan. Lin Yi, boss Lin, Kang Xiaobo forced himself to say. He added, he just came to Songzhan recently, and he's very powerful. I advise you not to mess with my boss. I'm his #1 follower. What? Ruoguang jumped up as if someone stepped on his tail the moment he heard Lin Yi's name. His face turned white as he turned to look at his old man Zhou Tiandi in fear. Lin Yi's name is Ruoguang. Zhou Tiandi was shocked as well. No way? Why was Lin Yi haunting her like a ghost? You can see his shadow everywhere you go? Why did he have a number one follower? But Zhou Tiandi was a man of his word, and he kept his composure. Was the kid talking nonsense? He quickly took out his phone and called his son, Zhou Ruoming. If Lin Yi had a follower, Zhou Ruoming should know. No matter what, he had to make sure that the kid wasn't bluffing. If Lin Yi didn't have a follower, Zhou Tiandi would beat the hell out of Kong Xiaobo. Who told him to scare people? Zhou Tiandi almost lost his mind when he heard Lin Yi's name. Hey Ruoming? Can I ask you something? Does Boss Lin Yi have a follower? Zhou Tiandi didn't dare disrespect Lin Yi, so he called Lin Yi boss. He was afraid that the person in front of him had something to do with Lin Yi. Zhou Ruoming didn't know why his father was calling him, but he answered anyway. There's one, Kong Xiaobo or something. He used to be a coward, but he got cocky after following Lin Yi. Kong! Zhou Tiandi heard Kong Fu call him Xiaobo. This kid in front of him was, without a doubt, Lin Yi's follower. Zhou Tiandi didn't know how he ended the call, but his face was filled with fear. In that moment, he finally remembered where he'd seen this Kong Xiaobo before. It was at the hospital. It was at the hospital, when he had a conflict with Lin Yi. This Kong Xiaobo was there. Mother ****. Zhou Tiandi turned around and kicked Zhang Baji in the chest, sending him sprawling on the ground. His head hit the foot of the table, and blood flowed out. But Zhou Tiandi wasn't satisfied yet. He went up and gave Zhang Baji a good kick. On the other side, Zhou Ruoguang also reacted. He went up to Zhang Baji and started to fight. Zhou bro, Master Zhou, why are you hitting me? Zhang Baji was confused. What was wrong with the Zhou father and son? Why did they suddenly go crazy? Hitting you? You almost King killed me. Mother didn't you hear me? This guy has something to do with Boss Lin Yi. How dare you do anything to him? Why didn't I kill you? Zhou Tiandi was pissed. Weren't you trying to harm him? Lin Yi was already pissed off by what he'd done recently, and now he came to bully his follower. Wasn't he looking for death? A few days ago, he bullied Tang Yun's brother's girlfriend, and Zhou Tiandi was worried. He didn't know if Lin Yi would come looking for trouble with him. He had just calmed down, and now he provoked Lin Yi's follower. Why was he so lucky? What kind of bad luck did he have to encounter? This sudden turn of events caused the Kong family's people to be dumbfounded. Kong Fu and Kong Mu looked at the furious Zhou father and son in shock. What surprised them even more was that when their son mentioned Lin Yi's name, the Zhou father and son immediately turned around and started beating up Zhang Baji. However, Kong Xiaobo finally understood that these two knew Lin Yi. Not only did they know Lin Yi, but they were also afraid of Lin Yi. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so angry. Zhou Tiandi and Zhou Ruoguang only stopped when Zhang Baji almost fainted. It wasn't because they were afraid of crippling Zhang Baji, but because they were tired. Both of them were big brothers, and fighting was usually done by their subordinates. They rarely fought long battles. The main purpose of their visit today was to scare Mr. Kong. They didn't expect to make a move. Chapter 563. Mystic Class Master. Misunderstanding? Who hit my dad? Kong Xiaobo was furious. He saw the 5 fingers on his father's face the moment he entered the room. Now was the chance for him to vent his anger. I hit him. Bro Kong, it's an accident. I'm sorry. Zhou Ruoguang had no choice but to step forward. Your dad calls me Bro Kong and you call me Bro Kong too? Your family's seniority is messy. Kong Xiaobo finally found a chance to vent his anger. These people were bullying him. He did not dare to do anything in the past. But now, he was Lin Yi's number 1 follower. He was also a powerful person. Uncle Kong! I'm sorry! Please slap me. I didn't mean it. It's an accident. Zhou Ruoguang was afraid of Lin Yi. When he heard that Kong Xiaobo was unhappy, he immediately changed his words. Dad, you should do it. Kong Xiaobo wanted his father to vent his anger. Kung Fu's emotions were complicated. He was surprised that his son's classmate was so powerful. Why were the Zhou's father and son so afraid of him? But no matter what, he was excited and happy. Zhou Roguang, who asked him to call him brother just a moment ago, was now his grandson, because he called his son uncle. However, Kung Fu was not a brute. He did not plan to let Zhou Roguang off. He said sarcastically, "Forget it. Brother Zhou said that he didn't mean it." I'm sorry, bro Zhou. I said it wrong again. It's not brother Zhou, it's brother Zhou, huh? Zhou Roguang's face turned purple. I'm a bro. Isn't he mocking me? But after a moment's hesitation, he understood that Father Kong was really mocking him. Zhou Roguang was not stupid. He kneeled on the ground. Grandpa Kong, I'm not a bro. I'm a grandson in front of you. It was a child. Please don't lower yourself to a child's level. Roguang, since Bro Kong and Uncle Kong aren't doing anything, you can slap yourself. Tiandi wanted to calm Kong Xiaobo down a little, so he decided to let him slap himself. Yes, yes! After Zhou Roguang heard it, he slapped himself in the face with a clear and loud sound. Brother Kong, Uncle Kong, I'm sorry. I'll definitely give you an explanation. Don't worry, I will definitely make that 8th grade tea house disappear. If Zhou Tiandi wanted to escape, he had to give House Kong an explanation. I was tricked by Zhang Baji. I won't forgive him. Kong Xiaobo didn't want them to stay there, so he sent them away after hearing Tiandi's words. After Tiandi left, Kung Fu and Kong Mu let out a sigh of relief. But they still dragged Kong Xiaobo along, asking him about Lin Yi. Kong Xiaobo didn't know much, so he could only pick out some things that happened in school. After 3 days of recovery, Lin Yi's strength had returned to the late phase of the golden class, but there was still some distance between him and the peak of the late phase of the golden class. In fact, on the second night, Lin Yi had already recovered to the late phase of the golden class, but on the third night, he seemed to have stagnated. Lin Yi was a little depressed. On the fourth night, Lin Yi couldn't help but ask Zhao Yazi, Jiao Lao, why is the energy in my body not increasing? I don't know. Zhao Yazi's voice gave Lin Yi a rude awakening. Ugh! No way? Lin Yi sweated. Well, our arts are different, and I haven't practiced the art of dragon mastery before. I can only answer some common questions, but I don't know about your progress and physical condition after practicing the art of dragon mastery. Zhao Yazi said straightforwardly. All right, I'll practice it myself. Lin Yi knew that Zhao Yazi was telling the truth. It seemed like he had to find his way forward. Lin Yi sat cross-legged in the jade space as usual, silently channeling the chant of the art of dragon mastery. The energy in his body was immediately mobilized, as if it was responding to Lin Yi's art of dragon mastery. The energy flowed into Lin Yi's body at an unbelievable speed, but Lin Yi could feel the energy being absorbed, and he could feel the instant the energy entered his body. But the total amount of energy in his body didn't increase. This was what made Lin Yi depressed and confused. If it was like before, when the energy was saturated to a certain extent, then it wouldn't increase. Because once the energy was saturated, it wouldn't be absorbed anymore. But this time, the situation was different. Although Lin Yi felt that the energy in his body was no longer increasing, the energy outside his body was still surging into his body. Luckily, the energy in the jade space was sufficient, and it didn't cost money. Otherwise, Lin Yi would die of heartache. The light absorption didn't increase, and it was a little depressing. It was like a skinny man eating delicacies every day, but he didn't gain any weight. However, regardless of whether it was depressing or not, since Zhao Yazi didn't know, Lin Yi could only explore and continue to practice. Anyway, he didn't know where the energy was absorbed, and Lin Yi didn't have anything else to do, so he treated it as a way to kill time. Time passed second by second, and the sky was already bright. The night was almost over. Lin Yi was still crazily absorbing energy in the jade space. Just when Lin Yi wanted to stop cultivating and return to reality, he suddenly realized that the energy around him was still surging into his body at the same speed. Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat, But he suddenly remembered the first time he entered the Jade space. This situation happened once, and that was when the art of dragon mastery broke through the first stage to the second stage. Could it be that I'm going to break through this time? Thinking of this, Lin Yi was surprised and happy, and his heart felt a lot more at ease. After all, Lin Yi knew that this must be the sign of a breakthrough. Boom! Lin Yi's body finally couldn't withstand the huge amount of energy, and it felt like it was going to explode. However, Lin Yi wasn't afraid. An unprecedented feeling of energy surged into Lin Yi's body. This was a very mysterious feeling, and he had never felt it before. In an instant, Lin Yi felt that not only was the energy in his body more abundant than ever, but his movements also seemed to have become much more agile. As for how agile, Lin Yi didn't know, because everything was just a feeling, and he didn't put it into practice. So you're about to break through, early stage mystic class, not bad. Jiao Yazi's voice rang. The physique of you humans determines that other than the level of your skills, there's also your own level. I forgot about this, you humans? Jiao Lao, are you not a human? Lin Yi was stunned. Chapter 564. Meeting an Old Taoist. Ugh! I don't think so. You look like a spirit. Lin Yi didn't know what kind of existence Jiao Yazi was. Theoretically speaking, he was no longer a human. Congratulations, you got it right. Jiao Yazi nodded. I'm a ghost. Are you afraid? Lin Yi was speechless. He didn't know how much time he spent on the breakthrough, but suddenly, he heard footsteps coming from outside the room. Lin Yi jumped and quickly came back to reality from the Jade space. He looked at the alarm clock on the bedside. It was already 6:30 a.m. He usually woke up at this time, but because of the breakthrough today, he was delayed for a while. Lin Yi put on his clothes and pushed the door open. He saw Meng Yao and Yushu talking in the kitchen. Why didn't Shield Bro prepare breakfast today? Yushu rubbed her abdomen with one hand as she searched the table with the other. Did you hide it somewhere? Alright, shoo, Lin Yi hasn't woken up yet. He rushed back to save us. He must be tired after the past 2 days. Let's go to school and have breakfast. Meng Yao shook her head. Oh, Yao Yao sis, are you worried about Shield Bro? Yushu was startled and looked at Meng Yao curiously. Meng Yao blushed and coughed. Why would I be worried? He's our savior, so we have to treat him better. Oh, okay. Yushu nodded. But the school's breakfast isn't good. We should ask Uncle Chu to get a new manager. That manager is a relative of mine. We can't change him. Meng Yao said. Alright, we're graduating soon anyway. We can't eat too many times. Lin Yi stood at the door and smiled. Heh, the miss is still the same. She always cares about people behind their backs but acts cold on the surface. It's still early. I'll make something for you guys. Lin Yi walked out of the room and went to the kitchen. You're awake? Meng Yao jumped in fright, her eyes wide open. Did he hear what she just said? Meng Yao felt shy and looked at Lin Yi fiercely. Why didn't you make a sound? Are you trying to scare me? Ha! Lin Yi didn't say anything and went to the kitchen. Li Fu had bought a lot of half-finished products ever since he moved into the villa. He opened the freezer to find some frozen dumplings, and took one out and put it in a steamer basket. He then took out some day-lily and enoki mushrooms from the freezer compartment, washed them clean, and cut them into sections. He then poured in some pepper oil, salt, sugar, and chili, and stirred it all up, turning it into a delicious pickled vegetable. On the other side, the soup dumplings were done as well. Lin Yi quickly picked them up from the pot and placed them on the table with the pickled vegetables. Alright, time to eat. Wow, as expected of Shield Bro, you're amazing! Yushu had been starving for a long time, and she reached for the bun. Shu, how can you eat like that? Didn't you wash your hands when you peed? Meng Yao stopped her. I think I didn't pee on my hands. Yushu blushed a little. Think? Meng Yao asked. Just a little bit. I got it on my hands when I was wiping them. Yushu stuck her tongue out. Then why aren't you washing your hands? Meng Yao glared. Then this dumpling. You can have it, Yao Yao. Yushu wanted to give the dumpling to Meng Yao. I don't want it. Meng Yao waved her hands. Shield bro, this is for you. Yushu put the dumpling on Lin Yi's plate. Lin Yi was speechless. When Yushu came back from washing her hands, Lin Yi was still staring at the dumpling, speechless. It wasn't that Lin Yi disliked Yushu. Quite the contrary, he was excited about it. Lin Yi wasn't a prankster. He couldn't bring himself to do it, and he couldn't bring himself to eat it. Throw it away, Meng Yao said as she looked at Lin Yi. I'm not hungry, you guys eat, Lin Yi said with a sigh. Living with Yushu meant that he had to bring out some courage. Yushu seemed to have realized that something was wrong with Lin Yi. She looked at Lin Yi, and then at the dumpling in front of Lin Yi. She started laughing. Haha! Shield bro, I used my left hand to hold the dumpling, and I used my right hand to pee. With that, Yushu took the dumpling in front of Lin Yi and took a big bite. It tasted really good. Lin Yi and Meng Yao looked at each other. They could see the helplessness in each other's eyes. After breakfast, Faubert came to pick Meng Yao and Yushu up. Lin Yi, on the other hand, drove his crappy van. Lin Yi was feeling pretty good after breaking through from Golden to Mystic. Mystic Masters were rare in the common world now, weren't they? He wouldn't be afraid of Gong Gao the next time he saw him. Physical practitioners were always a little weaker than spiritual practitioners. It wasn't a big difference, but there was still a difference. Lin Yi was feeling happy when he turned his head. He jumped in shock. This was because, in the van that originally had only one person, an old man had sat in the front passenger seat without anyone noticing. The old man was dressed very fashionably, in a t-shirt, jeans, sunglasses, and slicked back hair. Shit! Lin Yi slammed on the brakes. Who are you? How and when did the old man get in the car? Lin Yi didn't notice at all. He was originally happy about his breakthrough to Mystic early phase, but his mood dropped to the bottom. I'm Monk Mo Kongwen. The old man nodded to Lin Yi. Amateus Buddha. Amateus Buddha? Are you a Taoist or a monk? Lin Yi didn't understand. Who was this old man? Was he a master? However, Lin Yi couldn't feel a single bit of energy coming from him. Neither. The old man shook his head. Then why do you call yourself a monk? Lin Yi blinked. My surname is Monk, my name is Mo Kongwen, the old man said. Lin Yi was speechless. The old man was obviously bullshitting. I don't know you. You can get out. Mister, you have too much hostility. It's a bad sign. The old man kept talking. Lin Yi opened the door to the passenger seat and kicked the old man out. He started the car quickly and stepped on the gas pedal, speeding away. He was an old liar. Lin Yi was just relieved when he heard someone knocking on the window. He turned his head and saw Mo Kongwen running outside the car. He even knocked on the window. Lin Yi looked at the speed of the car and his eyes widened. 60 miles per hour. How did this old man keep up? Chapter 565. Chapter 565, Not Coming to School. Lin Yi felt that there was something wrong with this old man. He immediately stepped on the gas pedal. Mo Kongwen gave Lin Yi an unfathomable feeling. Lin Yi didn't want to have anything to do with him. How could someone who could run this fast be an ordinary person? Although Lin Yi was confident that he could reach this speed after reaching Mystic class, this old man didn't seem to have any strength at all. Lin Yi drove the broken van like a sports car. In the blink of an eye, Mo Kongwen finally disappeared. Lin Yi let out a sigh of relief. However, good things didn't last long. While Lin Yi was waiting at a red light, a head popped out from the windshield, followed by a hand knocking on the windshield. F***CK. Lin Yi was thankful that he was mentally strong. If it was someone else, they would have been scared to death by this old man. How did this guy get on top of his car? Did he get on top of his car the moment he sped up? Lin Yi knew that he couldn't avoid it. He had no choice but to stop the car by the roadside and get out. As expected, he saw Mo Kongwen sitting on top of the car leisurely with half a chicken claw in his hand. Old man, what do you want? Do I know you? Linny felt that he was really unlucky. Why did he bump into someone like this? I don't know you, but my master asked me to come and see you. Mo Kongwen jumped down from the car. There's too much evil qi in your body. It's affecting your true qi. If you don't get rid of it in time, you'll be in big trouble. Linny frowned. Linny would have turned around and left if he heard this old man say this. However, after seeing this old man's terrifying speed and hearing him mention true qi, Linny felt that this old man was a little strange. You know about true qi? Of course, I also know that you're at the peak of the late phase of the golden class, and you're about to break through. However, there's too much murderous aura around you, and it'll affect the absorption of true qi. If you try to break through by force, you'll be heavily injured at best, and you'll die at worst, Mo Kongwen said slowly. Linny frowned again. How could this old man know about the golden class? But Linny laughed coldly in his heart when he heard him say that he was at the peak of the late phase of the golden class. He thought that Linny had some ability, but it seemed like he heard it from somewhere and used it to fool him. If it was before today, Linny might have believed him, but Linny had just reached the mystic class, so naturally, he wouldn't believe this old man's words. Oh, is that so? Linny asked faintly, but his hand suddenly moved and slapped at the old man. Of course, Linny didn't really want to do anything to this old man, but he wanted to use this opportunity to test the old man's depth. He wanted to see if he really had some ability, or if he was a complete liar. Mo Kongwen saw Linny's attack, but he didn't care and casually blocked it. Then, he gasped and looked at Linny in surprise. You broke through? You're at the early phase of the mystic class? Linny's heart skipped a beat. It was already amazing that this old man could easily resolve his attack, and he could even say his current level, which meant that this old man wasn't simple. Although Linny didn't use his full strength, it was impossible for him to resolve a mystic class master's attack so easily without the strength of a mystic class master. But what kind of level was this old man at? Linny was really shocked. When Linny was at the golden class, he could clearly see Wu Gonggao's strength. Now that Linny was already a mystic class master, he still couldn't see the old man's strength. Who are you? Thinking of this, Linny looked at the old man vigilantly. That's strange, you actually broke through, and you're still fine. Mo Kongwen looked puzzled and shook his head. Master said that you're in danger, he wouldn't lie to me, right? Old man, what are you talking about? Who's your master? Linny asked. You're fine, goodbye. Mo Kongwen waved his hand, turned around, and ran away. In an instant, he turned into a shadow and disappeared from Linny's sight. Linny was envious of this speed, but he couldn't catch up even if he wanted to. Although he was a little surprised by Mo Kongwen's identity, Linny couldn't do anything about it. Fortunately, Mo Kongwen didn't seem to be hostile towards him, and he really wanted to help him. After all, he was only at the late stage of golden class yesterday, and he only broke through in one night. And this master that Mo Kongwen mentioned actually knew him so well. This made Linny wonder who this master was. However, these questions couldn't be answered for the time being, because Mo Kongwen had disappeared. There was no point for Linny to think about it, so he could only put these strange things to the back of his mind. He returned to the car and drove in the direction of the school. After the first class in the morning, Linny went to grade 12 class 9 to look for Tang Yun, but unexpectedly, Tang Yun didn't come to school today. Linny then called Tang Yun's phone, but it was still turned off. He wanted to ask Lu Xinwen, but she didn't come to school either. This time, Linny was a little confused. Did the two of them make an appointment? Why didn't they come to school? But no matter what, Linny couldn't find them, so he could only go back to the class. Kan Xiaobo was eager to tell Linny about yesterday's encounter, but Linny went out after class. When he saw Linny coming back, Kan Xiaobo wanted to say something, but the homeroom teacher, Ms. Lu, walked to the podium and said, "Everyone, please be quiet. I have something important to tell you." The class immediately quieted down. Although it was the end of class, no one dared to disobey the homeroom teacher. let me tell you a piece of unfortunate news. Our classmate, Zhong Pingliang, was kidnapped by unknown people yesterday morning outside the school. One of his kidneys was removed, and he was placed in front of the Songhan First People's Hospital. Ms. Liu just received a call from Zhong Fabai, and it was to ask for leave for Zhong Pingliang. Wah dash! The whole class was in an uproar. This news was too shocking. Such a tragedy happened to Zhong Pingliang. This made the students sympathize with him, but at the same time, they were worried that something like this would happen to them. Although the 12th-year students didn't really care about the news, they were aware of the recent cases of homeless people, beggars, and disabled people who were kidnapped and had their kidneys cut off. After all, the rumors spread like wildfire, and it was scary. Chapter 566. Chapter 566. Making a Deal. Oh. Yao sis, Shield bro is so awesome! Zhong Pingliang's kidney was cut off! Yushu didn't expect Lin Yi to be so ruthless as to cut off one of Zhong Pingliang's kidneys. He didn't do it, did he? He wouldn't do such a thing, would he? Meng Yao was confused. After all, it was too cruel. She subconsciously thought that Lin Yi wasn't such a cruel person. Who cares, Zhong Pingliang is done for. He won't harass Yao sis anymore. Yushu didn't mind. From her point of view, Lin Yi should be more aggressive towards his enemies in order to chase them away. Not necessarily. I heard that losing a kidney doesn't kill him, right? Meng Yao frowned. I don't know about that. But I saw on the internet that losing a kidney means you can't have sex. I wonder if it's true. Yushu blinked and smiled evilly. Shoo, don't say such dirty words. Meng Yao's face turned red as she lectured. No, I'm just saying the truth. I didn't say it, it's from the internet. Yushu felt wronged. Anyway, don't say it again. Girls who are so dirty won't be able to get married, Meng Yao said sternly. Oh, Yao sis will take care of it. Buy one get one free. People will buy it even if it's dirty. Yushu didn't care. Didn't they say that all men like perverted girls? Meng Yao ignored her. Zhong Pingliang is out of danger now. He's receiving treatment at the hospital. I want to organize a group of students to visit Zhong Pingliang in the hospital. Everyone is free to participate. Those who don't want to go can study in the classroom. Ms. Liu continued. I've already arranged for a bus. It'll be here soon. Those who want to go, prepare to go downstairs with me now. Zhong Pingliang wasn't very popular. He was one of the bad students in the class. Many serious students didn't even spare him a glance. However, Zhong Pingliang had organized a trip to the beach last time. This made him a lot more popular. Everyone was indebted to him. Now that he was in trouble, they couldn't miss him. Therefore, everyone put down the books in their hands and got up to go downstairs. After Fabai left, Sihua pondered for a bit before calling Jiangwen. Masterin, do you know Fabai? Sihua asked. Zhong Fabai? I don't know you, mahjong players? Jiangwen had just gotten rid of his love rival and was celebrating in the hotel. No, he's someone with some power in Songzhan. His son's called Zhong Pingliang, Sihua said. Zhong Pingliang? Jiangwen interrupted Sihua before he could finish. Sihua bro, you're not here to scold me, are you? But I can tell you that I was the one who cut off Pingliang's kidney. Jiangwen's tone made Sihua pause. It seemed like Pingliang and Jiangwen had quite a deep grudge. Young masterin, that's not what I mean. Sihua, naturally, didn't want to offend Jiangwen. Masterin, but this Zhong Fabai came to me just now, asking for an explanation for his son. Oh, then what do you mean, Sihua bro? Jiangwen asked faintly. I don't mind, but this Zhong Fabai is working for Master Bing now, so Master Bing has to ask about this. Sihua was in a difficult position. He didn't want to offend Jiangwen. After all, Hausen was backed by the firewolves. But he had to give an explanation for Fabai's situation. Oh, then let Master Bing come to me. I've been wanting to meet Master Bing anyway, Jiangwen said nonchalantly. So be it. Even if it was Master Bing's dog, he would still do it. What else could he do? Would Master Bing become enemies with Housen because of this? After all, the firewolves weren't any weaker than the family of the person behind Master Bing. It was hard to say who would win if they really went against each other. Master, you've misunderstood. Sihua was depressed. What was going on? He didn't know what Pin Liang did to piss Jiang Wen off, but he had to act as a mediator. But it wasn't easy to mediate. He and Jiang Wen were working well together, and there was no need to ruin their relationship because of Pin Liang. He could only ask, Master, what kind of grudge do you have with Pin Liang? Why did you have to do this? I'm not afraid to tell you. Jiang Wen didn't plan to hide it from Sihua. He told Sihua about the recording he heard from Lin Yi. He kidnapped my childhood sweetheart, how could I let him go? That's true. This Zhong Pin Liang has gone too far. Sihua sighed. If what Jiang Wen said was true, then it wouldn't be too much to teach Pin Liang a lesson. But now that the conflict had started, it wouldn't be easy to mediate. We need to give Zhong Fabai an explanation. Why don't we just hand Lin Yi over? This kid is obviously trying to provoke you and use you to get rid of Pin Liang. He's Meng Yao's bodyguard. Naturally, he wouldn't allow a bomb like Pin Liang to be around Meng Yao. I know, but Lin Yi is my informant. It's not good to hand him over like this, is it? Jiang Wen said faintly. I'll give you another 10% of our business. Can you give Zhong Fabai an explanation? Sihua gritted his teeth. This Zhong Fabai really was useful right now. He couldn't ignore him for now. Sihua had no choice but to come up with this plan. Deal. Let Zhong Fabai call me. Jiang Wen laughed in his heart. What did Lin Yi's death have to do with him? He was just messing with Sihua a little. After knowing that Lin Yi was just a bodyguard, Jiang Wen didn't really put Lin Yi in his eyes anymore. He just wanted to use him to get some information about Meng Yao. Not long after, Fabai's call came. He asked directly, Master, how did my son offend you? Why did you do this? It seemed that Sihua didn't say much. He only told Fabai that it was Jiang Wen who did it. As for the specifics, he would ask Fabai himself. Fabai, naturally, had heard of Jiang Wen's name. He used to be one of Songshan's 4 young masters, and was now the leader of Housen in Songshan. He had the firewolves behind him. So Fabai didn't make a fuss. He held back his anger and asked Jiang Wen why he did it. Jiang Wen had already made a deal with Sihua. He wasn't impatient at all. He told him the reason why he did it. What kind of person was Jiang Wen? One of Songshan's 4 young masters. How famous was he? His name was even more famous than Fabai's. Chapter 567. How to deal with him. Fabai didn't have anything else he could do. He didn't dare to offend Jiang Wen. He was someone who was on par with Master Bing, and he had the support of the firewolves. Who would dare to offend him? Although Fabai dared to call himself one of the big bosses of Songshan City's underworld, he was just a small fry compared to the firewolf gang. It was Lin Yi who instigated me to do this. Lin Yi is Meng Yao's bodyguard. In the end, Jiang Wen pushed the blame to Lin Yi for Sihua's sake and told Fabai to take revenge on Lin Yi. Fabai now had a way out. He didn't dare to go against Jiang Wen, but against a small bodyguard. Wasn't it a piece of cake? With that in mind, Fabai didn't dwell on Jiang Wen's actions anymore. Master, my son's actions are indeed offensive, but can you please return the kidney to my son for the sake of Master Bing and Sihua bro? Fabai asked. Return the kidney? Jiang Wen smiled coldly. How was that possible? The kidney had been sent abroad to find a recipient. Why would it be returned to him? I'm sorry, Mr. Zhong. I was so angry that I fed your son's kidney to the dogs. I'm really sorry. Jiang Wen naturally wouldn't reveal the kidney company behind him. Fabai froze, but he didn't suspect anything. If it was him, he wouldn't keep his enemy's kidney and put it back, right? Fabai could only accept his bad luck. He wouldn't die from losing a kidney anyway. It was better to find a way to take revenge on Lin Yi. Although he wanted to kill Jiang Wen to vent his anger, he was no match for him. After hanging up the phone, Fabai told his son the truth. His son was the victim, so he had the right to know. On one hand, Fabai wanted to warn his son not to do anything reckless. He needed to think about the consequences before doing anything. He only had one kidney left. That's what happened. Jiang Wen did it, but he said that it was Lin Yi who told him. Fabai said gloomily. Who is Jiang Wen? Yes, I vaguely heard someone call him young Master Wen. Pin Liang had woken up by now. Losing a kidney was serious, but it wouldn't affect his life. Jiang Wen used to be one of the 4 young masters of Songzhan, and Yishu's brother, Qin Yutian, is the leader of the 4 young masters. Fabai sighed. None of them can be underestimated. It's not that I'm belittling myself, but compared to them, I'm still far behind. This time, Yishu's brother didn't cause you any trouble. Otherwise, you might have lost your other kidney. He had to scare his son. Otherwise, who knew what kind of trouble this kid would cause? Ah! Zhong Pingliang's face changed instantly, and he started to feel scared. He remembered what happened to Wu Xiaocan. Qin Yutian broke both of Wu Xiaocan's legs. Son, we can only endure this hatred for now, Fabai said. We're no match for Jiang Wen. He has the firewolves behind him. Even Master Bing has to give him face. We can only take this lying down. Dad, I understand. I won't use force, but I'll remember this. Pin Liang gritted his teeth, and a sinister look flashed across his eyes. The day Naipeo returns from his training will be the day of Jiang Wen's death. Yes, a little impatience will spoil a great plan. We must endure it. Fabai nodded. Right, Dad, you said that Linny gave you the information? How does Linny know Jiang Wen? Why would he do that? Pin Liang suddenly remembered what his father said about Linny. This kid is Meng Yao's bodyguard, Fabai said. He's the one who told Jiang Wen about Meng Yao. What? He's Meng Yao's bodyguard? Pin Liang froze. How could Linny be Meng Yao's bodyguard? The two of them didn't seem to be on the same wavelength. What was going on? Yes. He's hired by Pingzhan to protect Meng Yao and Yushu in the dark. Fabai nodded. Every debt has a debtor, but this time, we can only target Pingzhan and Lin Yi. We can't touch Pingzhan for now, but as for Lin Yi, we can make an example out of him. Thuk. Pin Liang almost jumped up from his bed. I was wondering why Yushu had Lin Yi's photo in her phone. So he's Meng Yao's bodyguard. Fuck, I didn't realize this. This kid always seems to be ruining things between Meng Yao and me in school. So he's Meng Yao's bodyguard. This kid sure is good at hiding his strength. Son, Meng Yao isn't your type. Don't go after her anymore. Fabai sighed. Jiang Wen isn't someone we can touch right now. We'll focus on Linny first. We'll think about other things when we're stronger. Dad, I understand. At this point, Pin Liang understood that it was impossible for him to pursue Meng Yao. At least, it was impossible before Zhang Naipeo appeared out of nowhere. As reluctant as he was, Pin Liang gritted his teeth. A man doesn't have to worry about not having a wife. Dad, don't worry, I'll endure it until the day we get rich. Yes, that's right. We'll take revenge for this. But for now, we can only live under Master Bing's protection. Fabai nodded, pleased. Right, Dad, that Linny isn't weak. We need to deal with him. Pin Liang was still worried about Lin Yi's skills. After all, Lin Yi had crippled Heibao Bro. Don't worry, we'll need Master Bing's help to deal with him. We won't stand out. Fabai said. There's no rush. We need to gain Master Bing's trust first. I'll do a good job with the slums. Let Master Bing treat me as his right-hand man. That's the only way we can borrow his power. The slums? Pin Liang's eyes lit up. Dad, I have an idea. I know how to deal with Lin Yi. Oh? What do you think? Fabai didn't expect his son to have an idea so soon. He was worried that his son wouldn't come up with another idiotic idea, would he? Luckily, he told him about it beforehand. Otherwise, he'd be in trouble again. Son, think before you act. Don't be impulsive. Chapter 568. Chapter 568. Visiting Pingliang. Pingliang's words stunned Fabai. It was said that great emotions could change a person's personality and make an immature child grow up in an instant. However, he had never seen it with his own eyes. Seeing that Pingliang was much more mature and didn't sound like a child anymore, Fabai was very pleased. Son, I'm glad that you think like that. You didn't lose your kidney for nothing. I won't lose it for nothing. I won't let go of Jiangwen and Pingzhan. Pingliang shook his head. But for now, let's pick the weak ones first. Dad, aren't you going to demolish the slums? I know that Lin Yi's girlfriend lives in the slums. When you demolish the place, make things difficult for her family. Of course, it's best if you direct the conflict to Master Bing. Lin Yi will use Jiangwen to deal with me, so we'll use Master Bing to deal with Lin Yi. If anything happens, Lin Yi and Pingzhan's anger will only be directed at Master Bing, not us. And Fabai listened to his son's suggestion and nodded. That's a good idea, but if they don't stay in the slums, we won't be able to cause conflict, right? We can create conflict with this. For example, forcefully demolish their house, We can use a bulldozer and let Master Bing do it himself, Pingliang suggested. Okay, I'll try my best. Fabai hated Lin Yi as well. If he could use Master Bing to mess with him, he would be more than happy to do so. As he spoke, his phone rang. It was Pingliang's homeroom teacher. Thus, he quickly picked up the call. Hello, Teacher Lu. Oh? You organized a group of students to visit Pingliang? Thank you so much. Are you at the hospital already? All right, come over. He's in room 418 of the 4th ward. After hanging up, Fabai said to Pingliang, Your teacher and classmates are here to visit you. I'm going out for a smoke. Pingliang nodded and felt warmth in his heart. It seemed like his teacher and classmates didn't forget about him. The last time he treated them to a trip, he had repaid the favor. Otherwise, how miserable would it be if not a single classmate came to his hospital? He waited for a while, but the students didn't show up. It would take some time to get to the 4th hospital from the entrance. Pingliang picked up his iPad too and logged into the mobile reading base's website. He started reading a novel called Very Pure, Very Flirtatious Prequel. This was a very YY school novel, and the main character in the novel was very powerful. It was super fun to step on people, and Pingliang had fallen in love with this novel. He kept fantasizing about being the main character in the novel, wondering when he'd be able to step on Lin Yi and Jiangwen like that. However, the more he read, the more depressed he became. Why did he feel like a supporting character in a novel who was stepped on? And so, Pingliang fantasized that this side character could get strong enough to take down the main character. He didn't know how long had passed, but when he was enjoying himself, footsteps came from outside the ward. Then, the ward door was pushed open, and his classmates filed into the ward. Pingliang put his apple aside and raised his head with a smile. Although he saw Yushu and Mengyao walking in front of him, he didn't see anything wrong with their presence. He had learned how to hide himself, and he wasn't surprised that Mengyao and Yushu were rescued safely. If they weren't, Jiangwen wouldn't dare to act recklessly. As for the process of being rescued, Pingliang didn't think about it. It was meaningless. Oh! Liang Yi, I heard that you lost a kidney? Yushu exclaimed as soon as she entered the ward. Does that mean that I'm not a man anymore? Pingliang heard Yushu's words and felt embarrassed, but he didn't throw a tantrum. After all, he was the one who kidnapped them first. Yushu was probably here to insult him. But Yushu's expression was innocent, and no one would think that she was insulting him. Ahem, Shu, don't talk nonsense. Of course he's a man, he just doesn't have a kidney. Mengyao wanted to laugh, but she played along with Yushu's act for once. She hated Pingliang very much. Oh, I got it. Then he's not a complete man. Yushu nodded as she realized what Lin Yi meant. Yushu and Mingyao's conversation made the students laugh. They couldn't help it. Although they sympathized with Pingliang, Yushu's words were too funny. Not a complete man? That was very ambiguous. Pingliang's face turned red, but he couldn't refute it. How could he? He was missing a kidney, so he wasn't a complete man. Yushu was right. Wow! Liang, isn't this an iPad too? I saw a news article about a guy selling his kidney to buy an iPad. You're not that guy, are you? Yushu looked at Pin Liang, surprised. Pin Liang was speechless. He wanted to smash the iPad on the spot. His family was rich, okay? Did he need to sell his kidney? It was cut off by someone, okay? Pin Liang wanted to say that Yushu knew how he lost his kidney, but he couldn't say that. But he couldn't say that out loud. Wouldn't that be admitting that he'd kidnapped Meng Yao and Yushu? He couldn't admit it. Admitting it was another matter. Pin Liang wasn't an idiot. He could only let Yushu talk nonsense. At that moment, Ms. Lu came in, and Yushu stopped talking nonsense. She stood at the side with a smile, holding Meng Yao's hand. Her eyes were full of curiosity. Shoo, let's go. I don't feel good when I see him. Meng Yao frowned. She didn't want to be too close to Pin Liang. Okay, let's go. Yushu nodded. I just wanted to see what a person without a kidney looks like. He looks normal. It's nothing, right? Meng Yao shook her head, and the two walked out hand in hand. Lin Yi didn't go forward at all. He only followed Meng Yao and Yushu. Pin Liang didn't have much of a relationship with most people. They only came to see him out of sympathy. Now that they were done, they were ready to go back to school. After all, the 12th grade was very tight. Many people had to go back to study. Xiaofu came with everyone, trembling. He didn't know the truth behind Pin Liang's kidney being cut off, but he had a feeling that it had something to do with Meng Yao's kidnapping. He was scared that he would be the next target. Chapter 569. The Secret Theft Plan. Fuck, who else could it be? It's all because of Meng Yao, Pin Liang said hatefully. But it wasn't Ping Zhan, it was someone else. Have you heard of the Songzhan Four Young Masters? Yeah, but wasn't that a long time ago? Didn't they all go their separate ways now? Xiaofu said. It was one of the four young masters, Zhang Wen. I didn't expect Meng Yao to be his childhood sweetheart. Looks like I've fallen into his hands this time, Pin Liang said helplessly. Looks like I can't get back at him anymore. No way, he's that strong? Xiaofu paused. What do we do? What else can we do? Just bear with it for now, Pin Liang said faintly. Don't worry, it's over. You won't be dragged into this. Liang bro, that's not what I meant. I'm not scared, it's just that this is too cruel. Cutting out a kidney for you, Xiaofu said, but he was afraid. Forget it, we'll just keep quiet from now on. Let's see who dares to go against us after Naipeo leaves the mountain, Pin Liang said, gritting his teeth. Yeah, who do we have to be afraid of when Naipeo comes back? We'll be the new Songzhan Three Young Masters. We'll kill whoever dares to go against us. Xiaofu was looking forward to Naipeo as well. All right, Xiaofu, focus on your studies. Let's not cause any more trouble for now, Pin Liang said. Pin Liang didn't mention that he was going to cause trouble for Lin Yi through Master Bing. He was afraid that Xiaofu would leak it out. Pin Liang was much calmer now. Donghai, Dr. Kang's villa. Dr. Kang's face was very unfriendly. House Kong didn't get anything out of this auction at all. Not only did they buy a pill of life extension and toxin cleansing at a high price, but they also spent most of their money. That was not all. The most important thing was that there was basically no hope for him to become an aristocratic family. The skin-beautifying golden creation, which they had high hopes for, became dispensable in front of the special edition injury medicine from Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. The 1,000-year snow lotus that they bought at a high price might not even be able to recoup the cost. Grandpa, I think Grandpa must have given the formula to Kong Xiaobo. Otherwise, why would Miracle Dr. Guan's company have the formula for the injury medicine and the special edition? Zhao Long said carefully as he looked at his grandpa who was walking around the room. I've asked. Boss said that he hasn't seen the formula. Kong Xiaobo doesn't have any formula either. Dr. Kong shook his head. I know Boss's character. If he wanted to make money, he wouldn't have quarreled with me in the first place. Grandpa, times have changed. Kong Ming stood up and said. At that time, Big Grandpa didn't have a grandson, so he didn't think too much. He only thought about himself. But now, he was thinking about the future of his children and grandchildren. Look at how pitiful Kong Xiaobo is right now. His women are all my leftovers. Big Grandpa wouldn't want his grandson to be poor, would he? That's why he gave the formula to Kong Xiaobo. But he's afraid of losing face in front of you, so he won't admit it to you. Zhao Ming, what you're saying is possible. Dr. Kong nodded. Then, what do you think we should do? Kong Ming was a sinister person himself, so it wasn't a problem for him to think of sinister things. But it was a bit hard for him to come up with a plan. Grandpa, I think we should get to the bottom of this. First, we need to see how they got the formula, and second, we need to get the formula for the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. Xiaolong said. Of course, we can't stop researching the formula for the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. If we can make this pill, there's still hope for us to become a noble house. Of course, but we don't have our own people there. How are we supposed to get to the bottom of this? Dr. Kong nodded. Grandpa, didn't I tell you? There's a powerful person in our house. Xiaolong said as he looked at Kong Ming. Dr. Kong paused, remembering what Xiaolong said in Yanjing. He nodded. Xiaolong, tell me your plan. Zhao Ming, I have a serious mission for you. Xiaolong said seriously, looking at Kong Ming. Ah? Me? What mission? Kong Ming was getting goosebumps from Xiaolong's stare. He didn't know what he wanted. Hit on Guan Xuemin's granddaughter, Guan Xian. What do you think? Can you complete this mission? Xiaolong asked, looking at Kong Ming. Ah? Hit on girls? Kong Ming paused, then smiled. I can't say for other things, but I'm pretty good at hitting on girls. That's my forte, just leave it to me. Dr. Kong didn't know whether to laugh or cry at Kong Ming's words, but this grandson of his wasn't completely useless. He really had to let him handle these side tasks. Guan Xuemin's granddaughter isn't that bad, unlike the girls you play around with. You'll have to put in more effort, Xiaolong said. According to my research, this Guan Xian became a nurse in the hospital after graduating from medical school, but she's pretty pure. I don't think she's had a boyfriend before, so this type of girl has a pure heart. It's not easy to get her, but once you get her, she'll be completely loyal to you. If you ask her to help you with some secrets, she'll be more than willing to help you. Ah, big bro, I didn't know you were this good. You know how girls think? Kong Ming was quite surprised. He didn't think that his big bro, who never had a girlfriend, would know so much about women. This is just theoretical knowledge, and you're the one who's put it into practice. So, we still have to rely on you for this. If you get the recipe, you'll have done a great job, Xiaolong said. Alright, big bro, I don't have much talent in management, but I'm confident in doing things like this. Just send me out for these kinds of things in the future, it'll be a piece of cake for me. Kong Ming had always been worried about not having a chance to show off his skills, and now he had a chance. After finalizing the plan, the Kong family discussed the analysis of the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing's formula. Xiaolong, based on the current situation, this pill of life extension and toxin cleansing is different from the previous one, be it in terms of color or taste. Dr. Kong said. Could it be that we got it wrong last time? That the one we brought back was just dog shit? Chapter 570. Chapter 570, Eaten by Dogs. This time, we can't afford to make any more mistakes. We need to work hard on researching the ingredients of the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. If we have the recipe, there's still hope for us to become a noble house, Dr. Kong said. Grandpa, what about me and Wang Xinyan? Xiaolong hadn't planned on interacting with Wang Xinyan at first, but things had changed so quickly. Becoming a noble house was a sure thing, but it was all gone in the blink of an eye. This made Xiaolong very depressed. We still have to interact with her. Our family is in a troubled state right now, and we can't cut off contact with the Xiao family. Dr. Kang's voice was filled with helplessness. Bao Long nodded. He was still very interested in Wang Xinyan, but he couldn't decide how far he should go with her because of the benefits of his family. He was afraid that House Kong would become too powerful, and he would be tied down by Wang Xinyan. He was also afraid that House Kong would lose the support of the Xiao family and become even more miserable. And so, Zhaolong didn't get a good night's sleep. He woke up early in the morning, planning to bring the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing to the lab to study its ingredients. If he really couldn't figure out what it was, then he'd have to go back to Wang Xinyan. He came to the living room, where his grandpa had placed the pill yesterday. Zhaolong was just about to reach for it when he realized that the box with the pill was open. The pill of life extension and toxin cleansing inside had disappeared without a trace. Oh no! Where was the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing? Grandpa? Zhaolong yelped in fright. This was over 400 million. It wasn't a joke. Zhaolong's voice alerted Dr. Kong, Kong Beifeng, Kong Tsepu, and Kong Mingming. They all rushed to the living room and looked at the empty box on the coffee table, their mouths agape. Why is it gone? Who touched the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing? Dr. Kang's first thought was that someone in his family had secretly stolen the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing, so his expression immediately darkened. Everyone was stunned, but they shook their heads. They were all members of the Kong family. Although Kong Beifeng and Kong Tsepu had some conflicts in the dark, it was still a personal grudge. How could they dare to disrupt the family's affairs? Dog fur! Kong Mingming's sharp eyes suddenly noticed a few strands of dog fur beside the box containing the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. Where's the shepherd dog? Dr. Kong was stunned and frowned. Could it be that his dog had taken it away? Previously, because he had been researching dog poop, he had left the German shepherd dog at home. Later on, he realized that dog poop was useless, so he didn't bother with it, and just casually kept it at home. However, he didn't expect that dog to cause trouble and steal the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. Everyone in the Kong family came to their senses and started searching the entire villa for the dog. Finally, they found the German shepherd dog in a corner of the courtyard. The German shepherd dog was curled up next to a pile of broken twigs. Around the dog was a pile of dog poop. It was extremely smelly. However, Dr. Kong couldn't care less about the smell of dog poop. He picked up the German shepherd dog and started searching around. However, after searching for a long time, he couldn't find the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. The pill of life extension and toxin cleansing had disappeared. Where did this stupid dog take the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing to? Dr. Kong was incomparably anxious. Cold sweat had formed on his forehead. That was bought with shining silver. It was more than 400 million. If it was lost, wouldn't it be a huge loss? Everyone looked at each other in dismay. Where could they find such a small pill? This villa was huge. No matter where it fell, they wouldn't be able to take care of it. However, only Kong Mingming's expression changed. Grandpa, could it have been eaten by a dog? What do you mean Grandpa was eaten by a dog? How can you say that? Kong Tsuipu was a little angry when he heard his son's inappropriate words. It's not that Grandpa was eaten by a dog. I'm saying the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing was eaten by a dog. Kong Mingming hurriedly explained. This dog's condition is similar to the last time I ate it. It's all diarrhea, and it's lying there powerlessly. When Dr. Kong heard Kong Mingming's words, he looked at the dog's condition. Indeed, it was no different. His head immediately buzzed and his vision went black. He collapsed to the ground and fainted. Anyone in his shoes would faint. The pill of life extension and toxin cleansing that was bought with 400 million was eaten by a dog. How was anyone supposed to live? Dr. Kong fainted was still all right. If it were someone with a weaker mental fortitude, their heart would have exploded. The rest of them weren't much better off than Dr. Kong. He was the Kong family's only hope for ascension, but he was eaten by a dog just like that. The heavens weren't helping the Kong family. However, regardless of what the heavens were thinking, the Kong family hurriedly sent Dr. Kong to the hospital. The pill of life extension and toxin cleansing was gone. If anything happened to Dr. Kong, the Kong family would really be finished. Miracle Dr. Kong, on the other hand, was fine. He'd only fainted because of the anxiety, and woke up when he got to the hospital. He was worried about the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing at home. Even if it was eaten by a dog, he'd kill the dog and extract the pill from its stomach. You bastards, why are you sending me to the hospital? What a waste of time! Why don't you open up the dog's stomach and see if there's any pill inside? Dr. Kong was furious. These wastrels were really infuriating. Didn't they know what was more important? Kong Gai Feng and the rest looked at each other. That's right. Why didn't they think of that? It was probably too late to go back now, right? The dog had already digested the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. But no matter what, Dr. Kong still rushed out of the hospital and brought his family back to the villa. What greeted him was a shepherd dog full of energy. There was no need to mention how energetic this shepherd dog was. It jumped up and down with inexhaustible energy. Dr. Kong regretted it when he saw the dog. The dog must have digested the pill already. How else could it be so energetic? But Miracle Dr. Kong still wanted to give it a try. He killed the dog, but there was nothing left in the dog's stomach. It seemed like it had been digested. Dr. Kong sat on the ground, almost crying himself to death. He almost rolled on the ground. 400 million! That was more than 400 million, gone just like that. There was nothing left. Why was his family so unlucky? Dr. Kong pounded his chest and stamped his feet. The others weren't any better. Kong Gai Feng and Kong Tsuipu had dark expressions on their faces, and Xiaolong and Kong Mingming were feeling extremely regretful as well. Another good opportunity was missed by the Kong family. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.